I opened a restaurant in Konoha and revived Hatake Sakumo at the start. Chapter 1 Hatake Sakumo. In the 42nd year of Konoha, Hatake Sakumo died at home. In Konoha's 47th year, Hatake Sakumo's soul was reborn in Konoha's Hanado restaurant. Kiyoshi Uchiha still couldn't believe the scene in front of him. 5 years ago, he attended Sakumo Hatake's morning meeting, and he still can't forget the solemn and mournful atmosphere at that time. But now, the Konoha White Fang, who had passed away for many years, stood in front of him again, safe and sound. However, it seemed that Hatake Sakumo was much more confused than himself. Hatake Sakumo's head was in chaos. He shook his head vigorously, and his consciousness gradually became clear. He looked around, and what he saw looked like an ordinary small restaurant. The tables and chairs are neat, and the wall tiles are bright, but there is no one else in the room except for a boy who looks 13 or 14 years old in front of him. The door is also closed. It should not be opened yet. Sunshine and lively human voices came in through the window, and Hatake Sakumo visibly trembled. With shock in his eyes, he turned around and faced the direction of Konoha Street. Strange. Am I already dead? Hatake Sakumo said to himself in a deep confusion. He remembered that the last scene of his life was falling on the floor of his own house. Then his soul wandered in the pure land of the underworld. Is it because of the reincarnation of the dirty soil? Hatake Sakumo suddenly remembered this forbidden technique developed by the second Hokage, which can summon the soul of the dead from the pure land of the underworld to the present world, but the method of use violates morality and ethics. He immediately looked at the ordinary young man in front of him with vigilant eyes. Could it be that this man is a caster? Uchiha Kiyoshi sighed softly and shook his head, feeling that it would take a while to explain. No, it's not the reincarnation of the filth. It's because of the Hall of Rebirth, Uncle Shuomao. The body of the reincarnation of the filth is an immortal body. You should know the difference between the body of the filth and the real body. Gusido is the name Uchiha Kiyoshi gave his system. Rebirth means getting rid of the shackles of past karma and regaining a new life. Just yesterday, Kiyoshi Uchiha, who was a time traveler, lost his parents on the battlefield in the Third Ninja World War. Therefore, he inherited his parents' last wish and continued to run this small restaurant on the side of Konoha Street. Wadao Restaurant. However, when he finished handling all the affairs and was about to reopen, an invisible ghost barrier that could not be perceived by others enveloped his small restaurant. The passage between the pure land of the underworld and reality has been opened, and the connection is the Wadao Restaurant. The souls of the dead in the Naruto world will go to the pure land of the underworld, and with the existence of this channel, Kiyoshi Uchiha has the possibility to bring the souls of the dead back to reality. Simply put, it is revived. After the enchantment was established, the Gusido system gave Uchiha Kiyoshi a first experience, that is, the novice gift pack. Hatake Kakashi's father, who had been dead for a long time, the former Konoha Shirato, Hatake Sakumo, was resurrected. I don't know. Hatake Sakumo shook his head suspiciously. He only knew about the existence of the forbidden technique of reincarnation, but he had never seen anyone use it. Uchiha Kiyoshi was also stunned. Knowing the details of forbidden techniques was a basic accomplishment for him as a traverser, but not for others. In short, to put it plainly, you died 5 years ago, but now you are resurrected. Your soul has wandered in the pure land of the underworld for 5 years, so you should be able to understand the matter of the soul. Hatake Sakumo nodded with a deep expression, and turned his head to look at Konoha's main street. The long-lost freshness made him feel unbelievable. He walked towards the door, wanting to open it, to see what it looked like outside, and what changes had taken place in his memory. You can't get out. The whole restaurant is wrapped in an enchantment. Of course, it's not used to restrict me, it's used to restrict you. Uchiha Kiyoshi reminded. The resurrection of the dead is something that is contrary to common sense, so it must be subject to certain restrictions. Close black lens bracket. This is the reminder given to Kiyoshi Uchiha by the Gusido system. Although Hatake Sakumo is currently in a state of complete health, he is unable to pass through the barrier and leave the Hinata restaurant. It has nothing to do with strength, It is the limitation of rules. Hatake Sakumo was mentally prepared and reached out to touch the door. As soon as his fingers touched the door, he immediately felt an extremely majestic and huge force, which bounced his whole body away. Tried again, still the same. Hatake Sakumo gave up trying to walk back, found a chair and sat down calmly, without any disappointment on his face. It is already rare luck to have the opportunity to return to the human world, and there is no need to ask for more. It would be much easier for Hatake Sakumo to accept the status quo. Uchiha Kiyoshi stepped forward and introduced himself. My name is Uchiha Kiyoshi. I am the owner of this restaurant and the manager of the channel between the pure land of the underworld and reality. It is a bit exaggerated to say that the manager is a bit exaggerated, but it is easier to bluff people and save a lot of trouble in explaining. You can't say, I have a system in my head, to Hatake Sakumo, which has a strong sense of disobedience. Hatake Sakumo nodded, and then Kiyoshi Uchiha briefly introduced his origin and the situation of this restaurant to him. When the war started, Uchiha Kiyoshi's parents stopped running the Hinata restaurant. Now the business has been transferred to Kiyoshi Uchiha, and it has not yet opened, so no new employees have been recruited. Before Hatake Sakumo came, he was the only one in the entire restaurant. However, in view of the current special situation, Uchiha Kiyoshi did not dare to recruit new employees from outside. In the future, it is inevitable that there will be such ruthless people as Uchiha Madara and Senjuzuma. It is difficult for ordinary people who do not belong to the pure land of the underworld to come in. According to Madara's temper, he wants to find someone to dance without saying a word. Uchiha Kiyoshi is also thinking about hiding things here for the time being. When the first generation and second generation Hokage came, Konoha's senior management knew the situation, and a group of people came to bow and salute every day, so what should we do? Hatake Sakumo gradually sorted out the current situation. Uchiha Kiyoshi continued to explain, now is 5 years after you died. Now, the Third Ninja World War has been waged between various major countries, and it has been fighting for a long time. 5 years later, Hatake Sakumo murmured, bowing his head. Kakashi should be 12 years old now. How is Kakashi now? Hatake Sakumo raised his head, with anticipation in his eyes. This was what he was most concerned about. Uchiha Kiyoshi sorted out his thoughts in his head, and it would be difficult to explain Kakashi's matter for a while. It has been a while since the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. Counting from Hatake Sakumo's death, Kakashi's character alone has undergone 2 changes. Kakashi is now a Jnin, he is now. Uchiha Kiyoshi started from the beginning. Kakashi was indifferent, rational, and a bit poisonous when he was a teenager. Because of his father's affairs, he closed his heart and was very persistent in tasks and rules. Afterwards, Uchiha Kiyoshi spent a lot of effort to clarify the Battle of Kanabi Bridge, including the fact that Uchiha Obito's Sharingan was transplanted to Kakashi. Hatake Sakumo nodded while listening. It turns out that so many things have happened. In the final analysis, the cause is still me. Hatake Sakumo sighed heavily, looking lonely. It was my decision at the time that was too hasty. Chapter 2. So, uncle, do you regret it? Kiyoshi Uchiha asked tentatively. Hatake Sakumo's eyes were deep, and his face was creased one after another, full of the sense of age of a middle-aged man. Yes, I left too much psychological burden on Kakashi. This is not what a father should do. Uchiha Kiyoshi said. Actually, I have always felt that what happened 5 years ago was not your fault at all. Hatake Sakumo shook his head with a wry smile. It's been a long time, so I don't need to mention it anymore, and I still can't explain it clearly. Hatake Mosaku rectified his mood, and looked around the restaurant's furnishings and environment. I remember that I seem to have been to this store before, and it looks familiar. Is there anyone else in this store? Uchiha cleared his hands and said, so far there are only 2 of us, and more people will join in the future. I mean, pulled from the pure land. Hatake Sakumo immediately thought of those 2 on Hokage Rock. If they reappeared in the world, it would have a huge impact on the entire ninja world. At this time, He also felt that this restaurant was very interesting, so he couldn't help asking curiously. Who is your next candidate? Uchiha Madara. Ah. Hatake Sakumo reacted in his heart after listening. Uchiha Madara, the former leader of the Uchiha clan, once established the first ninja village in the history of the ninja world together with Senjujuma. Sharingan can control the nine tails. In common rumors, it is a symbol of evil and ambition. The people of Konoha also regard him as the villain who killed the first Hokage. Hatake Sakumo stood up instantly. Why do you want to resurrect him? Isn't this adding to Konoha's troubles? Uchiha waved his hand calmly, signaling Hatake Sakumo to sit down. Sit down first, listen to me, it makes sense for me to resurrect him. Everyone grew up listening to the will of fire, how could I harm Konoha? Hatake Sakumo sat down firmly and listened to Uchiha Kiyoshi. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked serious and said solemnly. Because of the war, the cost of transportation of various raw materials has been greatly increased. Woodcutters are afraid to go to the wild to cut firewood, and the Land of Thunder does not send natural gas to the Land of Fire. So I think, Uchiha Madara's fire escape it's very powerful, let him continue to get angry, it should save a lot of money to buy fuel. Saving costs means making profits. Quote. Hatake Sakumo was stunned for a while after listening, and then said to Uchiha Kiyoshi with an extremely shocked expression, you can't be serious. Uchiha Kiyoshi also expressed, I'm serious, with a serious and unsmiling expression. Hatake Sakumo still shook his head. Although you are the manager of the Pure Land Channel, I still want to persuade you that the hidden danger of Uchiha Madara is greater than we imagined. He can harm the entire ninja world. Besides, if you want to use the fire to get angry, it can also be done. Quote. Uchiha Kiyoshi shook his head slightly, and retorted solemnly. No, you are not as good as him, and your fire is not enough for Uchiha Madara. The cooking fire in the restaurant is much higher than that at home, and your chakra is too small compared to him, and it is not durable enough. Hatake Sakumo was so shocked that he was speechless for a while. He never dreamed that one day he would seriously discuss the issue of Huadun cooking with others. The key is that he is a dignified, Konoha White Fang, who is still disgusted. However, the person who thought of the comparison was Uchiha Madara, so it didn't seem so uncomfortable. In fact, Uchiha Kiyoshi also thought about asking Senju Bashima to use the wood to add some firewood and make furniture or something. But when he thinks that, the most ruthless ninja, Uchiha Madara will use his proud fire to light his back kitchen stove, it is easy for him to make a decision. This is the temptation of Uchiha Madara. They're all coming anyway, so there's no rush in this order. Hatake Sakumo quickly accepted this fact. Since the managers are sure that they can manage well, he doesn't worry about it too much. At least, Uchiha Madara couldn't get out of this door just like him. There is another question, that is, will Uchiha Madara listen to you? Hatake Sakumo asked curiously. Uchiha replied calmly. It may not sound good to say this, but as the channel manager, I can control the physical condition and life and death of the summoned. This is the authority granted to him by Shangshungtong, if there is no such authority. Summoning Uchiha Madara is no different from suicide. On the one hand, any attack and control of Uchiha Kiyoshi by the summoned is ineffective. On the other hand, Uchiha Kiyoshi can clear the chakra of the summoned person at any time. Hatake Sakumo rubbed the center of his brows with his fingers, the facts he heard were too shocking to his three views, and he needed to relax. He took a deep breath and continued. Is there anything I can do for you now? Kiyoshi Uchiha let out a, Although we have few people, let's gradually open the restaurant. Uncle, can you cook? Of course a chef is essential. Sakumo Hatake stood up and said with a smile, this is something I'm absolutely good at. In the past, it was just me and Kakashi at home, and I prepared all the meals. Kiyoshi Uchiha thought that Kakashi started living alone when he was 7 or 8 years old, and he often completed the whole steps from buying vegetables to cooking by himself, which was very handy. This should also be the power of genes. Then it's much easier to do that. Now let's discuss another matter. Kiyoshi Uchiha put his hands on the table and looked at Sakumo Hatake. Uncle, is there anything you want to do? Hatake Sakumo raised his head, thought for a while, and murmured while thinking. There are so many things I want to do. Now I want to see Kakashi. In the future, I want to see Kakashi wearing a wedding dress. No, it's his bride, my daughter-in-law wearing a wedding dress, and Kakashi. She walked into the wedding hall together and swore to each other. Kiyoshi Uchiha didn't want to point out the fact that his son developed according to the original plot and was still a bachelor at the age of 50. Let's just say it's closer, that is, I want to meet Kakashi, right? Uchiha Kiyoshi said. Hatake Sakumo nodded, and then said with a smile, but the current situation is not that I can't get out. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied, that's right, but I can go out and do it for you. Successfully activated the source of willpower, Hatake Sakumo, close black lens bracket. According to the request of the wishing master, obtain the consciousness suspension function, close black lens bracket. Consciousness suspension function. May the Lord's consciousness be placed on your body, and contact the outside world through your 5 senses, close black lens bracket. The voice of the Gusido system rang in Uchiha Kiyoshi's head. The so-called willing force literally means the power of will. The power of vows can come from people who are summoned from the Pure Land. As long as you help them fulfill their wishes, you can harvest the power of vows. By consuming the vow power, the designated soul can be revived from the Pure Land. Chapter 3 An Insignificant Wish. Hatake Sakumo thought for a while and replied. You went to see Kakashi for me. It sounds like eating for someone, or dating someone. It doesn't feel right. If you call him to the restaurant, I won't show up, and I won't show up if you look at him from a distance. That's enough. Quote. Uchiha Kiyoshi had just received the news from the system, and the system gave him the ability to suspend consciousness according to Hatake Sakumo's wish. Although Hatake Sakumo himself cannot go out, he can pin his own consciousness on Uchiha Kiyoshi and get in touch with the outside situation through Uchiha Kiyoshi. In other words, Kiyoshi Uchiha is a tool man in charge of running errands. Uchiha Ching replied, don't be so troublesome, I just received a gift, which can be used on you. Uncle, please don't move, I will go out for a while, and you will know. Hatake Sakumo didn't know what it meant, but he encountered too many incomprehensible things today. Without thinking too much, just according to Uchiha Kiyoshi's request, sat quietly in the original position, watching Uchiha Kiyoshi open the door and go out, and then locked the door. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to the street and activated the consciousness suspension function. Uncle, can you see it? Hatake Sakumo was taken aback, and Kiyoshi Uchiha's voice suddenly appeared in his head out of thin air. Immediately afterwards, the scene in front of him quietly changed, from the empty restaurant to the crowded Konoha street. Now that I have shared my sight and hearing with you, I feel like I'm still used to it. It should be like watching a movie. Hatake Sakumo was too shocked to speak. Uchiha Kiyoshi turned his head left and right, showing the surrounding things to Hatake Sakumo. On both sides of the flat road, there are rows of shops and houses. The streets and alleys are full of fireworks. The owner of the grocery store is waving a fan in one hand to cool off, and holding a small book in the other to read. Judging from his tense expression, reddish cheeks and unnatural body movements, the content in the book should be out of reach of children temporarily. Even though the fan was blowing hard, the body was getting hotter and hotter. The children on the street laughing, playing and fighting are familiar images of Hatake Sakumo. From the angle of view, there are figures of many acquaintances, some juniors who were young and shy in the past. Now they have started to hold the arms of their subjects, walking on the street with each other. Hatake Sakumo couldn't help but feel that many changes have taken place in 5 years, but the atmosphere is still so cordial. The business of Yale Ramen Restaurant is still so hot. Hatake Sakumo communicates with Uchiha Kiyoshi through consciousness. There was a long queue in front of Yilela, and Uncle Yale was very busy playing with his hands, sweating profusely. A new flavor of ramen came out today, do you want me to try it for you? Taste and smell can also be shared. Uchiha Kiyoshi proposed to Hatake Sakumo in consciousness. Let's forget it. It feels a little weird. Hatake Sakumo didn't expect that the operation of serving food for others actually existed. Uchiha Kiyoshi continued to walk forward, towards Kakashi's house. Uncle, there is a question. Kakashi and I have not had much communication before. There must be a reason for the sudden visit, otherwise it would be too abrupt. Hatake Sakumo thought for a while, then said. Do you have any friends who know Kakashi? Uchiha Kiyoshi first thought of the green figure. His unruly hairstyle, confident smile, and white teeth are always deeply fascinating. But there is one, you know, Hatake, son of Mathide. Speaking of Maidkai, Kiyoshi Uchiha couldn't help recalling the process of getting acquainted with him. At that time, he had just crossed over and was full of curiosity about the world of Naruto, but he hadn't activated any cheats, so his cultivation progressed very slowly. And the handsome picture of Kaihuang opening 8 doors and almost kicking the finale has been lingering in his mind. At that time, Kiyoshi Uchiha thought, I am still young, so I can do it too. So on the way home from ninja school one day, Kiyoshi Uchiha approached Maidkai and said that he would do gymnastics training with him. Although 2 years later, the matter of insisting on training was lost due to various reasons, but after 2 years of companionship day and night, Uchiha Kiyoshi and Maidkai established a very deep friendship. Hatake Sakumo positively replied, yes, I am very impressed with their father and son. By the way, is he now a chunin? Hatake Sakumo knew that Mad Dai had no ninjutsu talent, so he could only practice physical skills, and he was still a ninja in his 30s, so he was ridiculed as 10,000 years ninjutsu, which is not pleasant. But Mad Dai's enthusiasm and perseverance, and decades of hard work, he has seen and appreciated it very much. Therefore, he is very concerned about whether Mate Dai has been promoted from the lower ninja to the middle nin to prove himself. Uchiha Kiyoshi was silent for a while, and then gave a heavy tone in the communication of consciousness. No. He died on the battlefield to protect Maidkai and the other 2 children. Hatake Sakumo also fell into a brief silence, sighing secretly. As that's so. Hey, he is a man I admire, and I very much hope that one day he can prove himself in front of the whole village. Uchiha Ching replied. Uncle Mate Dai has proved himself. He fell as a hero. I will tell you about this later. This matter needs to be told slowly. Kiyoshi Uchiha stopped. Then I'll go to Maidkai now and ask him to introduce me to Kakashi. It is good. Hatake Sakumo pulled away from the feeling of regret. Have you thought about the reason for it? The introduction also needs an explanation. Uchiha Kiyoshi turned and walked in the direction of Maidkai's house. Think about it. Maidkai has a habit of challenging Kakashi almost every day. I said that I also want to challenge Kakashi. Although this reason is a bit rigid, Yaikai's character is there will be no doubts, and you will be very enthusiastic to help me. And Uchiha Kiyoshi thought of some embarrassing memories, and was not very willing to say them. In the eyes of many people in Konoha, I and Maidkai are the same kind of people. A few years ago, he was walking around the Konoha handstand with Maidkai. Although he didn't wear the iconic green tights, just his behavior was enough for most people in Konoha to classify him and Maidkai into the same category. Only then did Uchiha Kiyoshi understand why girls were reluctant to get in touch with him before, and even avoided him when they saw him. Hatake Sakumo smiled and said, That's great, you are also a very good boy. Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled reluctantly. While chatting with Hatake Sakumo, Uchiha Kiyoshi soon arrived at the door of Matkai's house. He knocked on the door and called Matkai's name loudly. But no one responded, as he thought, Maidkai should be training hard at this time. Not at home, it should be at the nearby training ground, at this time. Uchiha Kiyoshi glanced at the sky. As far as I know, he should be doing blood kicks in the training ground. Go find him there. Chapter 4 Is this a substitute fight? Uchiha Kiyoshi walked into the training ground where Maidkai often stayed, and passed between the trees. Before he saw anyone, he heard the sound of impact and the counting of Maidkai. 4,396, 4,397. Hatake Sakumo heard it and said, although it is said to be Bloody kicks, it's not really kicks. Uchiha Kiyoshi explained. It's actually a few days' worth. He walked a few steps forward and came to the open field, and saw an extremely eye-catching green figure. Even if it appeared in the corner of sight, it was hard not to attract attention. With a red scarf around his neck, Madokai kicked a thick tree over and over again, with a serious expression, repeating precise and powerful movements like a robot. Ordinary people may feel distressed for Madokai when they see such a scene at first glance, worrying whether such force will hurt their legs. But when he focused on the tree he kicked, and saw the deep depression on the tree, he would feel extremely sympathetic for the tree. It just grew thicker, but it was about to be kicked 10,000 times by a strong and energetic boy in a few days, and the tree body was deformed. Kai. Kiyoshi Uchiha called out to Mai Tekai, who was immersed in training. Madokai turned his head and saw that it was his old training partner, and said happily. Shing, I haven't seen you for a long time, are you here to train with me? Hatake Sakumo thought to himself. This kid seems to really want to find someone to train with him. Uchiha Ching shook his head. No, I'm here to ask you something. Have you tried it with Kakashibi today? Not yet, I didn't beat him yesterday, and I'm still summing up yesterday's mistakes. Mikey asked curiously, why are you asking this? Uchiha Kiyoshi deliberately pulled out a bright smile, the same style as Madokai usually. I want to challenge Kakashi too. Madokai blinked, his eyes were filled with joy, he clenched his fists, and said loudly. Shing, have you been infected by me again? Why do you say, again? Uchiha was stunned for a moment, and also realized that it turned out that Madokai thought that he suddenly found him to exercise together a few years ago because he was infected by his spirit. There seems to be nothing wrong with saying this, but Uchiha Kiyoshi doesn't really want to admit it. That's right. The meaning of youth is to challenge people who are stronger than yourself. Kiyoshi Uchiha said loudly, imitating Matekai's spirit and tone. Perhaps it was because there was no one around that Uchiha Kiyoshi dared to learn from Madokai like this. If there were more people standing next to him, after saying these words, he would want to live on another planet. Hatake Sakumo muttered in a low voice, are all the children these days so energetic? With bright eyes, Madokai gave Kiyoshi Uchiha a firm thumbs up. Shing, you are indeed the person I recognize. I really didn't misunderstand you. I have never missed the challenge of Kakashi every day. Uchiha Ching replied. Then when can we go to him? I'm already eager to try. Matkei thought about it carefully. Shing, let's have a competition first, because Kakashi is stronger than me. Although we say we have to be brave to challenge, we must proceed step by step. If you are defeated by an enemy that is too strong, you will lose confidence. If you beat me, I will all take you to meet Kakashi. What? Uchiha Kiyoshi was stunned, he didn't expect this. Because the other party is too serious, unexpected developments occur. He quickly consulted Hatake Sakumo through his consciousness. What should I do, uncle? I don't think I can beat him. Hatake Sakumo replied. Is there a big gap between you and him? If not, I can guide you to fight. While you are fighting, I will tell you how to deal effectively. I'm about the same as him in terms of overall strength, but when it comes to sparring physical skills, I'm at odds with him. It's not a problem if there is such a big gap between and. Believe my vision, I am a good Jonin anyway, and I can help you beat him. With Hatake Sakumo's guarantee, Uchiha Kiyoshi is not afraid anymore, and replied to Madokai with affirmative tone. Okay, let's get started. Madokai nodded, put on a posture, and looked at Uchiha Kiyoshi with a serious expression. Steady your footing first, don't rush to be the offensive side. When the hard power is not as good as the opponent's, defensive counterattack is the most reasonable strategy. You just need to defend, and then follow my tips to catch his flaws. After listening to Hatake Sakumo's words, Uchiha Kiyoshi lowered his body and assumed a defensive posture. Madokai rushed forward, intending to preemptively attack, punching and kicking, and launched a swift and fierce offensive. Uchiha Kiyoshi folded his arms in front of his body. According to Hatake Sakumo's words, he only wanted to defend against Matkai's attack, not how to take the initiative to attack. Matekai's body was tough, and his punches and kicks were heavy. Uchiha Kiyoshi just used his arms to carry it down defensively, feeling pain from flesh to bones. After a few rounds, Matekai also understood Uchiha Kiyoshi's strategy. He first feinted forward with a punch, and when Uchiha Kiyoshi was about to raise his arm to block, he suddenly withdrew his hand. Uchiha Kiyoshi knew that Matekai was about to use Konoha Great Whirlwind, and subconsciously wanted to retreat. "Don't back up. Go forward." Hatake Sakumo suddenly shouted at Uchiha Kiyoshi through consciousness. Only then did Kiyoshi Uchiha come to his senses, and before Matekai took off, he took a step forward. "Pretend to hit him in the stomach first, and he will definitely back off. You go ahead and attack his lower body, and then trip him by wrestling." Hatake Sakumo quickly finished speaking in one breath. Although it is a long sentence, it feels like an instant when it is transmitted in the form of stream of consciousness. Matekai did not expect that Uchiha Kiyoshi would not retreat but advance, so he could only interrupt Konoha Taishuan's movements. Uchiha Kiyoshi punched Matekai in the stomach. Matekai relied on core strength to stabilize his body, and then retreated while pulling his stomach in. Uchiha Kiyoshi retracted his fist just as he stretched it out. His body didn't stand still and lean forward. Instead, he took a few steps forward, stood at the point where Matekai retreated ahead of time, and raised his leg to sweep towards Matekai's leg. Matekai had no choice but to sway and barely stretch his legs to block it. His center of gravity is unstable now, so he directly pulls closer. Hatake Sakumo saw the timing and directed. Uchiha Kiyoshi stepped forward without hesitation, pinned his legs to Matekai's legs to prevent him from standing still, and then used wrestling techniques to intercept his upper body and trip him down. A series of perfect countermeasures made Matekai a little confused. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. Kiyoshi Uchiha felt that it was quite easy to win. After all, it was Konoha Bega who guided the sparring between the two Chunin kids, which is probably equivalent to the king commanding the laning in the silver game. "Uncle, are you a bit too hardcore?" "What do you mean by hardcore?" Matekai lay on the ground and muttered, "Shing, when did you become so powerful?" Before Uchiha Kiyoshi could explain, Matekai stood up with a carp, and stood up from the ground very vigorously. "Shing, I have the motivation to practice more." Chapter 5 Sakumo Hatake's Power Leveling. Seeing that Matekai's emotions were not affected, Kiyoshi Uchiha was relieved. Matekai said seriously, "Although it's a bit reconciled to be defeated by you, it's good to learn something." He smiled brightly at Uchiha. "It seems that I will include challenging you in my daily training in the future." Uchiha Kiyoshi shuddered, not knowing if he was serious or joking. After that, Matekai took Uchiha Kiyoshi to find Kakashi. On the way, Matekai was still summing up the battle just now. "I should do this, and this, yes, and this." Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at Matekai's fist gestures, and was a little scared, afraid that Matekai would come to fight him again with the summed-up experience after summing up. The road and surrounding things in Hatake Sakumo's field of vision became more and more familiar, and he was about to arrive at his home. Matekai went to knock on the door, and soon there were footsteps inside, and the door was opened. Kakashi stood behind the door, wearing a mask that covered half his face, with the eye patch pulled down over his left eye. The silver hair is exactly the same as that seen on Kiyoshi Uchiha and Sakumo Hatake. Gain 50 willpower. Close black lens bracket. The sound of the system sounded, and because Hatake Sakumo successfully met Kakashi, the wish was fulfilled to a certain extent, so Uchiha Kiyoshi also obtained the wish power. Kakashi. Uchiha Kiyoshi heard Hatake Sakumo muttering in a low voice. Kakashi's eyes are lazy every day, and he looks like only kissing heaven can make him cheer up. But it is still several years before Jiraiya writes the ninja masterpiece, Kissing Heaven. Kakashi blinked his sleepy eyes, looking like he just fell asleep. "Hey, it's you, can you set today's challenge as who sleeps longer?" "Well, it's a good proposal, so it's decided. I announce that the competition will start now." Kakashi talked to himself for a while, then let out a long yawn, looking like he wanted to sleep on. Hatake was full of energy, and said, "Kakashi, I am not here to challenge you today, but he is here to challenge you." Huh. Kakashi scratched his head, then looked at Kyoshi Uchiha aside. "I don't know, and I'm confused. Why do you have this kind of thought? Did Kai infect you?" Kai retorted. "It's not a disease, how can it be said to be infected? It should be said to be infected. It's almost there." Uchiha Kyoshi didn't say a word, and Kai had already explained the reason for him. Kakashi had a look of disgust on his lips, but he was actually a little interested in facing Kai's friends. It's just a habit to sarcastically sarcasm Kai at ordinary times. In his heart, he is very serious about every match with Kai. Including the playful nature of eating barbecue competitions, he is also very involved. Kakashi yawned again, the hazy drowsiness dissipated, and his spirit improved a lot. Hatake lightly hooked Uchiha Kyoshi's shoulder with his arm, and said, "He just knocked me down with 3 or 2 hits." Kakashi was a little surprised, really. He felt that if he really had such strength at such an age, he should have been famous long ago. Uchiha Kyoshi said, "Hello, my name is Uchiha Kyoshi. Apart from being a ninja, I am also the owner of a restaurant. I hope to have the opportunity to receive you." Kakashi smiled and said, "I will definitely take care of your business." After exchanging greetings for a while, the 3 of them came to the open field, and Kakashi and Kyoshi Uchiha stood facing each other with a certain distance. Kyoshi Uchiha stretched his waist, and then said to Sakumo Hatake on the other side of his consciousness, "Uncle, now you are taking over my body completely, I'm going to hang up." Although Hatake Sakumo didn't understand the meaning of the word hook, but combined with the context, he could still understand the meaning of the words. Hatake Sakumo was full of expectations. 5 years later, he wanted to know how far his son had grown. "What you can do really surpasses my imagination step by step. Thank you, this is very good, and it is equivalent to me being able to fight Kakashi in person. It started, you get used to it first." With a single thought from Uchiha, it was like pressing a confirm button, and immediately Mosaku Hatake not only shared his senses with him, but also temporarily gained control of his body. And Uchiha Kyoshi's own consciousness retreated to the second line, just watching quietly. Hatake Sakumo controls Uchiha Kyoshi's body, which is awkward at first, as the size and functions of his body are quite different from his own. The hands are not hands, the feet are not feet, and there is a feeling that there is no way to walk. Kakashi saw Uchiha Kyo raised his hand and put it down, raised his leg and put it down, and turned his head from time to time. He didn't know what it meant, but thought it was some kind of special physical technique. In fact, it was just Sakumo Hatake adapting to his body. Kakashi rushed up at this time. He was very curious if Uchiha Kyoshi was really as strong as what Hatake said, or if it was just a polite compliment. Hatake Sakumo focused on Kakashi, planning to adapt while fighting. Kakashi issued several quick light blows one after another. The first swipe of Hatake Sakumo was very slow and almost got hit, but the next few moves were all dodged lightly. The range of motion is not large, there is no redundancy, the impartiality is just right, and it is completely predictive. This is completely different from the insight effect of Sharingan. Sharingan sees through actions because it has extraordinary insight. And the other party's reaction is more like experience awareness, one step counts as many steps behind. Kakashi felt that this was not the consciousness that a person of the same age should have. The body can be exercised, but such things as experience have to be sharpened in thousands of battles. The effectiveness of experience often varies from person to person. In other words, the same method that works for one person may not work for another. After several rounds of fighting, Kakashi's movements were all resolved by Sakumo Hatake, and Sakumo Hatake gradually adapted to Kyoshi Uchiha's body in the fierce fight. "Uncle is very talented," Uchiha Kyoshi muttered. Just like Yaoshido can break Tsunade's chaotic rush with his own strong adaptability, the adaptability of smart people is always a bit too good. Kakashi was very strange. He felt that this person seemed to be very familiar with his attack habits, as if he had known him before. He also has countermeasures. He used Sharingan to imitate the actions of many people before, and now he can use their attack patterns. Hatake Sakumo noticed that Kakashi's attack style had changed. The stride and rhythm have all changed to another set. The brat is quite clever. Hatake Sakumo smiled relievedly, and became more serious. Kakashi will change his moves, and he has countermeasures. Although you have copied many movements with Sharingan, it is still not as good as my experience for the time being. Sharingan is just copying, and there is still a little difference from mastery. Hatake Sakumo thought. He originally just wanted to satisfy his wish to fight against his son. But as the fight got better and better, he couldn't help substituting into the previous scene of personally guiding Kakashi. Uchiha Kyoshi watched without saying a word, thinking. Uncle doesn't want to develop into a teaching bureau, does he? Chapter 6 Hatake Kakashi. The more Kakashi fought, the more he felt that something was wrong, although from the scene, he and Uchiha Kyoshi were evenly matched, and no one could gain the upper hand in a stalemate. But he knew very well that the other party had been following his tricks all the time, and had no intention of fighting back at all, just diffusing his well-designed attacks one after another. Since his consciousness is so advanced, he should have seen his flaws long ago. This kind of feeling is like a teacher teaching a student or an adult teasing a child, which is very wrong. Madokai studied hard while watching. If he didn't have a pen at hand, he would still like to take notes. Oh, so it can still be like this, I realized. Kyoshi Uchiha thought about it, but still felt that he should remind Sakumo Hatake. Uncle, if you continue like this, Kakashi may have to see something. After he finished speaking, he felt that it didn't matter even if Kakashi noticed something was wrong, as long as Hatake Sakumo had fun. It's okay, you can handle it yourself. Hatake Sakumo realized that he was so eager to think about his son, he was so involved that he accidentally forgot the current situation. I understand. Kakashi and Hatake Sakumo punched each other, and the two retreated one after another. Hatake Sakumo asked through consciousness. Shing, what are your main chakra attributes? He wants to use my ninjutsu. Water escape and fire escape. Uchiha Kyoshi replied. Most of the Uchiha family either have only fire chakra, or fire chakra plus another. It is another situation to learn the escapism of multiple attributes through the copying of Sharingan. After Hatake Sakumo and Kakashi fought for a few more rounds, Hatake Sakumo said to Kakashi through Uchiha Kyoshi's body. It's getting late, let's end it with escapism. Kakashi's pupils shrank suddenly, and his heart trembled. He is all too familiar with this sentence from tone to content. Although it has been a long time since he heard this sentence last time, he still remembers it clearly, just like the wind cannot sweep away the traces of rocks. Whenever Sakumo Hatake was busy with other things when he was young, he would end with this sentence. Is what the person in front of me is showing really just a coincidence? Both Hatake Sakumo and Kakashi retreated habitually, leaving a distance for ninjutsu to be used. Water escape. Water chaos. Water escape. Water chaos. They used the same ninjutsu, spraying water from their mouths like a waterfall and rushing towards each other. Kyoshi Uchiha wondered, how could this ninjutsu be used by Sakumo Hatake even though he didn't know it himself? Just ask about the chakra attribute, and you can use it with confidence. Tisk, a master is still a master. The two streams of water collided in the air. After the two sides clashed for a few seconds, Hatake Sakumo made a mistake in controlling the chakra because he was not used to this body. The chakra did not continue, so the water gradually subsided. He didn't expect that Uchiha Kyoshi's chakra amount was less than he imagined. Kakashi's water dungeon overwhelmed him, and when they were completely overwhelmed, they cancelled the water dungeon with a tacit understanding. The water did not fall on the person, but turned into raindrops, like a light rain. Uncle, when you want to end, just tell me. It is good. Hatake Sakumo agreed. He looked at Kakashi and tried his best to control his emotions. There should be a chance to confess to his son in the future, but now is not a good time. This is also what Uchiha Kyoshi is considering. 5 years ago, Hatake Sakumo's body was buried in the ground under the watchful eyes of Konoha high-level officials and many ninja civilians. At this time, he suddenly came back to life and appeared in his restaurant. Can't tell why. Even if he had the patience to tell everyone the real reason, not many people would believe it. Instead, he will be treated as a dangerous person and treated specially. Although Kiyoshi Uchiha can control the soul he summoned, he is just an ordinary person when he walks out of the Hanada restaurant. Kakashi. Hatake Sakumo deliberately lowered his voice, but when he said the words, the slightly choked tone still made it obvious that something was wrong, so he had to cough a few times to cover up his embarrassment. Kakashi's eyes were a little confused, and he covered his head with one hand. The situation just now was really vivid. Another coincidence. Water Dungeon. Water Luonbo is AC level ninjutsu, and it is also the basic ninjutsu of Water Dungeon. Some people will not be surprised. But it is also the ninjutsu that Hatake Sakumo likes to use at the end of the teaching. Because the water escape is easy to control, and it is not easy to hurt people. He turned his head and looked at his huge home, and now he was the only one living in it, and the past had passed for a long time. All doubts piled up in his heart, so he couldn't help asking. Who the hell are you? Uchiha Kiyoshi did not take back control of his body, but let Hatake Sakumo handle it himself. Hatake Sakumo smiled, looked at Kakashi a few more times, and felt that he was thinking a lot more. Even without his guidance, he became a jonin. Even without his company, there are friends who get along steadily. Kakashi is already able to take care of himself. Although he will encounter some ups and downs, he can handle it anyway. His appearance is not necessary, and his silent attention is enough. Hatake Sakumo replied in a calm tone. It's just an ordinary restaurant owner. I'm looking forward to your coming to my restaurant so that I can entertain you. After saying this, Hatake Sakumo said to Uchiha Kiyoshi through consciousness. Okay, I'm done. Gain 200 willpower. Close black lens bracket. The system's notification sounded almost at the same time as Hatake Sakumo's voice. Looking at the picture of father and son recognizing each other, Kiyoshi Uchiha couldn't hold back anymore. With a thought, his consciousness and Hatake Sakumo's consciousness switched shifts, and they reoccupied his body. After listening to Hatake Sakumo's words that seemed to contain deep meaning, Kakashi lowered his head slightly and remained silent. Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't know what Kakashi was thinking at this time. Matt K came running. You two had a wonderful fight just now. Kakashi came back to his senses, scratched his head embarrassedly and said with a smile, Ching is indeed as powerful as you said. Matt K straightened up proudly. Of course, the person who can beat me is not good. Kakashi and Uchiha Kiyoshi couldn't help laughing when Mattkai said something less proud in a solemn tone. Kakashi asked, Shing, where is your restaurant? Uchiha Kiyoshi replied, it's on East Street, not far from Yil Ramen, but for some reason, it may not open until next week. Understood, then I will go next week. After chatting for a few words, Kiyoshi Uchiha walked back to his restaurant, Mattkai continued to train, and Kakashi stayed where he was, sitting on the steps in front of his house in a daze. Raising his head, the white clouds were reflected in Kakashi's eyes, and the past was like smoke, lingering. Am I thinking too much? Or am I missing you, Dad? Chapter 7 Accumulate willpower and prepare to draw cards. There was no conscious communication along the way. Uchiha Kiyoshi returned to the restaurant in 2 or 3 steps, opened the door, and there was no one from Hatake Sakumo in the hall. Uncle. Kiyoshi Uchiha called out. Hey, I'm in the kitchen. Hatake Sakumo's voice came from the direction of the back kitchen. In the kitchen. Kiyoshi Uchiha curiously opened the curtain at the back kitchen door and walked in. Sakumo Hatake was holding a potato in his left hand and a kitchen knife in his right, preparing to peel it. It seems that Hatake Sakumo is already thinking about how to adapt to his future life. Before the shopkeeper asked, he started to practice. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that he would give him an advanced evaluation at the end of the year. Uncle, it feels acceptable emotionally. Uchiha asked comfortingly. Sakumo Hatake smiled and said, Kakashi is already able to take care of himself. I am very relieved. After being reborn once, there have been many changes in my mentality. Nothing is unacceptable. Uchiha Ching nodded. Since Hatake Sakumo could think so, he didn't ask any more questions. Hatake Sakumo twirled the potato in a circle in his hand, and in an instant his right hand danced the kitchen knife out of the afterimage. The potato skins fell off smoothly and fell into the trash. At such a fast speed, the potatoes themselves may not have realized that their skins have fallen off. Uchiha Kiyoshi witnessed Hatake Sakumo's knife work, and suddenly thought of the Nikkei post that he often saw when he visited the Hokage post bar. If Kakashi inherits the White Fang sword technique, will it be stronger than having Sharingan? That was a very early post. At that time, 23 grams was really fast. But in fact, in the original work, the word, white tooth knife technique, does not appear in the whole article. It's just that Hatake Sakumo left Kakashi with a special chakra short knife, with white chakra light radiating from the outside. Hatake Sakumo has used this knife to perform countless tasks. And this sword was interrupted by the enemy Jonin in the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. But Uchiha Kiyoshi still wanted to ask curiously. Uncle, is this your white tooth knife technique? Hatake Sakumo was taken aback. Why did he suddenly talk about this? No, it's not enough to peel a potato. Uchiha Kiyoshi's eyes lit up, and he continued to ask with anticipation. So that means there is such a thing as Shiroya sword art. Hatake Sakumo placed the peeled potatoes on the cutting board and quickly shredded them. Actually, I didn't create the term by Ya's knife technique. I'm just used to using a knife. In the process of performing missions many times, I gradually summed up a set of familiar enemy defense routines, and combined illusion and knife technique. Together, the effect is not bad. That's why everyone calls it that. Oh. Uchiha Ching understood that sword technique is a common attack method of Hatake Sakumo. Talking here, Hatake Sakumo suddenly thought whether he should teach Kakashi his own experience. But it seems to be more difficult to implement, and we have to think of a way. Maybe I can meet Kakashi alone. Hatake Sakumo was thinking about the ingredients in the back kitchen, and when the store opened, which dishes could be written on the menu. Uchiha Kiyoshi came out of the back kitchen and came to the innermost position of the restaurant, where there was a small shrine in the corner. In the Hokage world based on Japanese culture, the shrines in ordinary people's homes generally enshrine various gods and Buddhas of the Japanese native gods, or the ashes of relatives, portraits and the like. But Uchiha Kiyoshi placed Guan Eri. Guan Eri in the custom-made green hat looks very mighty, stroking his beard with one hand and holding a knife in the other, but Kiyoshi Uchiha is a little puzzled why Guan Eri became the god of wealth. In short, relying on his personal interests, he enshrines Guan Eri, who no one here knows. The shrine is just a decoration. The location of the shrine is where he contacts the pure land of the underworld and summons the soul. However, summoning a designated soul requires 1000 willpower, and now Uchiha Kiyoshi is only 250. Fortunately, every soul summoned by him and stored in reality can provide him with 30 wish power every day. Therefore, after another 25 days, he will be able to accumulate 1000 wish power. Injecting consciousness into the location of the shrine, Uchiha Kiyoshi began to search. Uchiha Madara. If there is a corresponding soul in the pure land of the underworld, the Gushungtong system will respond. If there is no response, it means that this person still exists in reality. After Kiyoshi Uchiha inquired, half a minute later, there was no response. That proves that the current Uchiha Madara should still be lingering underground. It's okay, I can wait. Uchiha Kiyoshi really wanted to go underground at this time to help Uchiha Madara extubate. Since it is only a matter of time, then everything is easy to say. A week later, Wadao restaurant reopened. When it was open to the outside world, Uchiha Kiyoshi only regarded the restaurant as a subsistence business. After all, he and his employees had to eat. The summoned people are not filthy people who cannot eat or drink. Uchiha Kiyoshi wondered if the body of dirt is the perpetual motion machine. The door of the restaurant was open to the outside world, Sakumo Hatake was in charge of cooking, and Kiyoshi Uchiha was in charge of keeping accounts and serving dishes. Because of the connections accumulated by Uchiha Kiyoshi's parents, some regular customers came to take care of the store once it opened, making the scene more lively. Therefore, although the business of the restaurant is not very prosperous, it is not deserted. Fortunately, Hatake Sakumo's culinary skills do have two brushes, a little fire, and can retain customers. Every morning, noon and night, a certain number of customers come to visit us. When it's time to eat, you can see more than a dozen diners enjoying their meals when you look from the street to the door. The restaurant business also looks decent. Hatake Sakumo has many acquaintances in Konoha. In order to avoid being recognized, he maintains the state of transformation every day, changing his silver hair into black hair, eliminating the wrinkles that symbolize age, and his image has changed a lot. But Uchiha Kiyoshi still called Uncle Uncle. In the morning after more than 20 days, Hatake Sakumo woke up at 5:30 as usual and began to prepare breakfast. As soon as he entered the back kitchen, he saw Kiyoshi Uchiha standing in front of the stove tinkering. "Ching, what are you doing?" He rarely saw Uchiha Ching get up so early. Hatake Sakumo came closer and saw that the oil was bubbling in the pan, making crackling noises, and Uchiha Kiyoshi was adding pieces of breadcrumbs into it. Uchiha Kiyoshi focused on looking at the frying pan, and replied without raising his head, "I think that if we want to make our restaurant bigger, we still need to have well-known signature dishes. I'm researching this." Hatake Sakumo asked curiously, "What's wrapped here?" "Chicken breast. This dish is called the kernel." "No, it's chicken nuggets." The research that the traversers talk about is all references. Kiyoshi Uchiha woke up early this morning, opened his eyes and smacked his lips, and suddenly wanted to eat KFC, but remembered that Naruto World didn't have such a thing. "Since you don't have one, just make it yourself, and you can sell it for money by the way. If it becomes popular, maybe you can open chain stores in the 5 major countries." So he changed KFC's Colonel's Chicken Nuggets to the localized name of Hokage, Junin Chicken Nuggets. Hatake Sakumo picked up a piece that was already prepared and put it on the plate. The appearance is golden and very delicate. Put it in your mouth, it is crispy and delicious. Because the amount of oil is controlled, the chicken nuggets taste not oily or greasy, silky and refreshing, which has a great impact on the taste. Well, it's really delicious. Chapter 8 New Employee Madara Uchiha. Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled complacently when he heard Hatake Sakumo's praise. In fact, he is not very clear about the specific production process of the Colonel's chicken nuggets. He only knows that the raw materials include breadcrumbs, eggs, peanut oil, etc. Therefore, many times of exploration are needed before the original Colonel's chicken nuggets can be found. What he is making now can only be said to be 7 images, but the taste can already be put on the table. Hatake Sakumo felt that it was not satisfying, so he picked up another piece and ate it. "Ching, I think this is okay. You teach me how to do it, I'll put it up for sale as soon as possible." After Uchiha Kiyoshi took a while to tell Hatake Sakumo the process he had figured out so far, he left the back kitchen. 1 week of preparation before the opening of the store opened for more than 20 days, and now 31 days have passed since the arrival of the first employee of Hinata Restaurant, Hatake Sakumo. According to the daily routine, when you come to the shrine, use your consciousness to search the name of Uchiha Madara in the pure land of the underworld to see if he is dead or not. Uchiha Kiyoshi faced the shrine, folded his hands together, and looked like he was praying. What will be the result this time? 5 seconds later, the location where the shrine was located shimmered with white light. Uchiha Madara's soul has been detected. Your current wish power is 1180, which meets the summoning requirements. Do you want to summon? Close black lens bracket. Following the response from the pure land of the underworld, the Gusido system also issued a reminder in Uchiha Kiyoshi's mind. Uchiha Kiyoshi's eyes lit up. "I finally waited for you, but fortunately I didn't give up." Kiyoshi Uchiha came to check the shrine every morning, and he got a response today, indicating that Madara Uchiha most likely entrusted his plan to Obito Uchiha yesterday, and then broke free from the pipeline connecting the golem of the outside world. Kiyoshi Uchiha rubbed his little hands, feeling a sense of anticipation that he would play a card draw mobile game before crossing, and was ready to press draw once, before the big guarantee. He hurried to the back kitchen and told Hatake Sakumo, "We are temporarily closed today." Hatake Sakumo asked curiously, "Why?" Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said, "I'm going to summon Uchiha Madara." Even with the previous warning, Hatake Sakumo was so frightened that he lost his grip on the kitchen knife and dropped it on the countertop. Uchiha Madara. Hatake Sakumo muttered to himself. He had heard many terrible legends about Uchiha Madara since he was a child. But right away, this legendary big man actually wanted to come to an ordinary restaurant to be his colleague. For a while, he didn't know how to describe his emotions. The huge contrast made him feel complicated. Understood. Hatake Sakumo scratched his head, washed his hands, and prepared to return the ingredients and kitchen utensils. Kiyoshi Uchiha trotted to the door, opened the door, hung a sign saying, "Internal renovation today, closed for business," on the outside, then locked the door, and returned to the shrine. Uchiha Kiyoshi re-injected his consciousness into the shrine. Definitely summon Uchiha Madara. After receiving Uchiha Kiyoshi's order, the shrine emitted a brighter white light again. "May I ask which Uchiha Madara in which physical state you want to revive? Note, it does not affect the memory state is before death." Option 1. Uchiha Madara, a boy in the Warring States period. Option 2. Uchiha Madara during the Valley of the End War, a mature man. Option 3. Uchiha Madara before dying of natural old age. Still want to choose the physical state? Uchiha Seichi thinks the same. If he simply summons according to the state of the soul before going to the pure land of the underworld, then he will see an old man who is dying in the next second. Maybe he couldn't last noon, and Uchiha Madara, who was covered in age spots, died naturally again and was sent to the pure land of the underworld. His wish power is equivalent to a white flower. What can recruit a 100-year-old Uchiha Madara to do? You can't just listen to his past stories. The boy Uchiha Madara of the Warring States period was not what he wanted either. So Kiyoshi Uchiha sent the order without hesitation. Option 2, the mature Uchiha Madara. Received the order. Uchiha Madara's soul is already being sent from the pure land of the underworld to reality. A blazing white light emanated from the shrine. 10 seconds later, Kiyoshi Uchiha appeared in front of Kiyoshi, a figure in red ninja armor with a stern and majestic face and long hair like a lion. Decades ago in the Valley of the End, Uchiha Madara, who led the Nine Tails and the god of ninja Senjubashira in a life-and-death decisive battle, has returned to the world at this moment. An invisible aura emanated from Uchiha Madara's body, and Hatake Sakumo, who was sorting out the sundries in the kitchen, suddenly raised his head, feeling a terrifying aura not far away from him. In Hokage's office, Hirozuru Sarutobi, the third Hokage, sat at his desk, facing a mountain of documents, and sighed softly. "When can I take a vacation? I have to work early in the morning. I hope the war will end as soon as possible." Complaining to himself, Sarutobi Hiruzen took out his beloved pipe from the drawer. Before going to work every day, he needs this to refresh himself, so that he can get into work faster. Sarutobi Hiruzen stuffed the tobacco into the pipe, pointed his fingers at the tobacco, and prepared to light a fire with the fire. The sparks at the fingertips flickered, and Hirozuru Sarutobi suddenly stared at him, stopped what he was doing, turned around and looked at Konoha's main street through the glass window. In the last second, he felt an extremely powerful chakra appear within Konoha's range. It was as if the vast sea was pressing down on the head, and the mountain was toppled, so powerful that it was strange. What's even more strange is that he sensed a trace of familiarity from this chakra. But he couldn't remember who it was for a while. It seemed that the age was too long, and he was no longer the person he had contacted in the past 10 years. But looking at the entire ninja world, there seemed to be very few people who could bring him such a sense of oppression. Fear and worry came to Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart, and he unconsciously put down his pipe. Boom boom boom. There was an urgent knock on the door of Hokage's office. Come in. Hirozuru Sarutobi shouted. Hi. Hi. Hokage-sama. I just sensed an extremely powerful chakra near the east street. The one who opened the door was Sugihara, Sarutobi's subordinate, who usually helps Sarutobi with daily affairs, and is also a sentient ninja. He was panting heavily while reporting, and when he sensed something was wrong, he rushed over in a hurry. Hirozuru Sarutobi leaned forward, and hurriedly asked, "Does Konoha's barrier have perception?" Sugihara shook his head. "That's why it's weird. Konoha's barrier didn't respond at all. I suspect it's some kind of space-time ninjutsu." Hirozuru Sarutobi said eagerly. "Tell the perception team to continue to investigate, and we must find an exact location. Send 10 Junin from Anbu to cooperate with the perception team, hurry up." Understood. Sugihara Shu came hurriedly just now, and hurried out again. Hirozuru Sarutobi leaned on the seat, restless. Could it be that an old monster who lived in seclusion in the mountains suddenly came to Konoha? But this is just guesswork, everything has to wait. Chapter 9 I am the god of death. Consciousness gradually became clear in Uchiha Madara's mind. Once again, he felt his presence. A vigorous body, powerful strength, and surging pupil power. Chakra circulates in the meridians, the blood boils in the veins, and the feeling of breathing freely is so alluring. The body returned to a youthful state, and the memory of my natural aging still remained in my mind, as if it was something new that just happened yesterday. Uchiha Madara was in a happy mood, thinking that his plan was going smoothly, and Nagato resurrected him with the art of reincarnation. Before opening his eyes, Uchiha Madara couldn't help laughing out loud. Ha 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 ha. Everything is under control. Standing aside, Uchiha Kiyoshi's eardrums were numb, and he couldn't stand Uchiha Madara's unbridled laughter. Sure enough, Uchiha Madara, one of the 4 masters of Uchiha laughter, loves to laugh so much. Uchiha laughs 4 masters. Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke, Uchiha Obito, and Uchiha Madara. Each of them had a maniacal laugh, characterized by a wide-open mouth and a brainwashing laugh. There is a song that says it well, "You look so good when you smile." Uchiha Kiyoshi covered his ears with one hand and came to Uchiha Madara's side, and patted him on the shoulder. Okay, stop laughing. Huh. Uchiha Madara heard a disrespectful voice. Uchiha Madara opened his eyes, then frowned. The scene in front of him was a little different from what he had imagined. The door is the front desk for checkout, and the shelves behind the front desk are stocked with drinks. Tableware was kept in cupboards along the walls, and awkward fake paintings hung on the walls for decoration. The tables and chairs are neat, and there are menus on each table. This is clearly a third-rate restaurant. Uchiha Madara looked at the boy who was talking to him just now, but he didn't know him. He expected that it should be one of the people who saw Obito and Nagato, but this boy was the only one here. Uchiha Madara asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? What about Obito and Nagato?" "Sure enough, I have to introduce myself every time I call." Uchiha said calmly, "My name is Uchiha Kiyoshi, and I am the owner of an ordinary restaurant." Surname Uchiha. Uchiha Madara smiled slightly, it turned out to be one of his own. Uchiha Madara moved his muscles and bones on the spot, and the feeling of returning to youth is really wonderful. "Little devil, what time is it and where is it?" Uchiha Kiyoshi was a little upset when facing Uchiha Madara's arrogant attitude that he didn't take himself seriously and took himself as a pony. He felt that it was time for Uchiha Madara to recognize reality. "This is the 47th year of Konoha, one day after your death. As you can see, you are now in Konoha, my restaurant, and I summoned you." Uchiha Madara was stunned. A day after death. It means that when his front foot hits the ground, his back foot is resurrected. The efficiency of Obito's action cannot be so high. The clear sense of the body made Uchiha Madara understand that this is not the body of the filthy soil. Since it is not the reincarnation of the filthy soil, using the elimination method, he feels that only the heretics and the natural technique of reincarnation can achieve the effect of resurrection. But the current situation looks so weird. The young man in front of him actually said that he summoned himself, but he didn't have the eyes of reincarnation necessary to perform the heretics, the innate art of reincarnation. Afterwards, Uchiha Madara repeated the question he had just asked. "Little ghost, where are Obito and Nagato?" Uchiha cleared his hands and said, "Nagato should be running the Akatsuki organization with 2 friends in Urinen village now. I don't know where Obito is. It should be planning to take revenge on Kurigakure village." Uchiha Madara snorted. This was not the answer he wanted, but he knew that Uchiha Kiyoshi should know a lot of things. Guyu wheel turns, and Uchiha Madara opens the kaleidoscope Sharingan. Then Uchiha Kiyoshi saw Uchiha Madara opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan very wide, with domineering arrogance in his eyes. Uchiha Chingshin thought that this should be using illusion on him. The two met their eyes at this moment. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed, half a minute passed. The two were relatively silent, and the air froze at this moment. Illusion usually uses chakra to interfere with the opponent's 5 senses, disturb the opponent's chakra, and make them fall into hallucinations. Pupil power is also a manifestation of chakra. Uchiha Madara is very strange. His pupil power dissipated without a trace as soon as he got close to Uchiha Kiyoshi. No matter how many times he tried, the result was the same. As soon as Hatake Sakumo came out of the back kitchen, he saw Uchiha Kiyoshi and Uchiha Madara standing face to face as if confronting each other. He looked out of the window, and there were many ninjas outside, and he immediately realized that Uchiha Madara suddenly appeared just now, and the powerful and conspicuous chakra had attracted the attention of many perceiving ninjas in Konoha. "Ching, it seems that someone followed Uchiha Madara's chakra to find it." "Thank you for reminding uncle," Uchiha Kiyoshi replied. Uchiha Madara sneered and said, "You guys are still caring about those bastards outside. Since illusion is not enough, let's come to physical art." Uchiha Madara used the instant body technique. His body shape affected the armor, turned into a red shadow, approached Uchiha Kiyoshi, held Uchiha Kiyoshi's collar, and wanted to lift him up. The speed was so fast that Kiyoshi Uchiha really didn't see clearly, nor did he react. Uchiha Madara exerted strength on his arm, but he couldn't lift it up, as if his fist had been punched into cotton, and he couldn't exert strength. "If you have something to talk about, why do you use your hands? If you weren't so domineering and offending people everywhere in the beginning, you wouldn't be able to find a few supporters in the whole Konoha." Uchiha Kiyoshi gently pushed Uchiha Madara's hand away, and straightened his collar. Uchiha Madara looked at his hand and Uchiha Kiyoshi in shock. The boy's tone seemed to be someone who witnessed the election of the first generation of Hokage at that time. Could it be that he used some kind of secret technique to prolong his life? Kiyoshi Uchiha just watched 720 episodes of Naruto. Madara Uchiha frowned and clicked his tongue, took a step back, and made seals with his hands. "Fire escape. Great fire." Uchiha Kiyoshi thought he couldn't let Uchiha Madara's big fireball destroy his precious restaurant, and immediately used the authority of the administrator to pull Uchiha Madara's chakra amount from 0% to an extremely low ratio, and there are countless chakras after the decimal point, approximately equal to the amount of an ordinary person who cannot refine chakra. The flame just fluttered in Uchiha Madara's mouth, and then disappeared, and even his own kaleidoscope Sharingan couldn't maintain it, and returned to the normal state. Uchiha Madara showed horror. He had never encountered such a situation in his life for hundreds of years. But he doesn't panic like an ordinary ninja. Since the other party didn't make a move, it was here to discuss. Uchiha Madara settled his mind and repeated the previous question again. "Who are you?" Uchiha thought of his speech early in the morning. To bluff Uchiha Madara, you cannot apply ordinary identities. I am a fool who does not belong to this era, and I am also the god of death who is in charge of life and death. Chapter 10 Uchiha Madara Crispy Rice. Hatake Sakumo tilted his head in confusion. Why is this a bit different from what he heard? Didn't he still say that he was the manager of the Underworld channel before? Why did he become a god of death again? The fool who does not belong to this era is also a sentence that he can't understand. Uchiha Madara stayed for a while, and ignored the previous sentence if he didn't understand it, but he understood it very well. The super powerful sealing technique originated from the Uzumaki family is to summon the god of death, who will cut off the soul of the target with a sword and swallow it in the belly, thereby sealing the soul of the target. And the soul of the caster will also be swallowed by the god of death as the price of summoning the god of death in the contract. If the young man in front of him is regarded as the god of death, everything can be explained. But what kind of phenomenon is it that Shinigami opens a restaurant on Konoha's main street? Uchiha Madara calmed down and could not act rashly at the moment. Although there were many doubts, if the other party was really the god of death, he could easily take away his soul. The god of death is angry, and the price is that he will not be reborn forever. Judging from the performance just now, this young man indeed has the ability to control his own body, which is very terrifying. Uchiha Madara is very depressed. The resurrection is resurrection, but this is not the resurrection he wants. The Moon Eye plan is still waiting for him to implement it. So, what did you summon me for? Uchiha Kiyoshi coughed solemnly twice. You've finally hit the mark. Hatake Sakumo rubbed his forehead, thinking, he won't really say that. Please come and light the fire. Huh. Uchiha Madara frowned, not understanding what this meant. Is this a metaphorical statement? Burning fire may refer to burning out the barrenness, which means bringing about a change in the world. The so-called wildfire starts a prairie fire, burns everything up, and is the beginning of a new life. That's right, it's exactly what I want. Uchiha Madara had a gloomy face, showing a careerist smile. If that's the case, I can help you. What's your plan? Uchiha Kiyoshi was surprised. Why Uchiha Madara agreed so quickly. He thought that the proud Uchiha Madara would be furious and make a big fuss. What plan do you need for the fire? Isn't it just to let the uncle put the firewood under the stove, and then you will light the fire? Uchiha Madara was taken aback for a moment, feeling that this sentence was meaningful, and began to think again. As smart as he is, he understood everything very quickly. Putting the firewood under the stove means that the preparations are almost done, and the man next to him should be the servant of the god of death, or a military advisor who makes plans. And to ignite is to ignite the fuse, and he will open the prelude to the reform of the ninja world. As expected of the god of death, the arrangements have been made. This may be a sweeter harvest than the Moon's Eye project, and I, Uchiha Madara, would like to take the lead. The desire of ambition rushed to his heart, which made Uchiha Madara feel sincerely happy. Ha 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 ha. Uchiha Madara began to laugh presumptuously again. Uchiha Kiyoshi was startled. Why did he start laughing again, and stopped quickly? Put it down, people outside will hear it. Okay. Uchiha Madara's laughter changed from heavy to light, and he slowly closed his mouth. Uchiha Kiyoshi muttered in his heart. I'm beginning to doubt the mental problems of the Uchiha family. Come with me. Uchiha Kiyoshi waved at Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara followed with full of expectation. Hatake Sakumo also followed into the back kitchen. Uchiha Kiyoshi pointed to the stove and said, "Come on, spray fire, just like you did just now." Uchiha Madara's brain was running fast, and he had never been so confused as at this moment. When a person's brain speed reaches a threshold, it is equivalent to stopping thinking. Uchiha Madara unconsciously followed Uchiha Kiyoshi's instructions to form seals, and then spit out flames from his mouth. Because it was the first time to lead Uchiha Madara to the back kitchen, Uchiha Kiyoshi was afraid that Uchiha Madara would burn the back kitchen if he didn't master the fire, so he adjusted Uchiha Madara's chakra to a very low level. The flame dragged the bottom of the pot, slowly heating the iron pot. Hatake Sakumo poured a little oil into the pot, spread it evenly, and then poured a plate of shredded pork. Add oyster sauce, light soy sauce, and salt, and start to stir fry over high heat. Soon, the smell of food filled the air of the whole kitchen. Uchiha Kiyoshi sniffed his nose contentedly. Yep, that's how it feels. He didn't expect things to go smoother than he imagined. Yes, that's it. I didn't expect you to get used to it like this. You are indeed the man I fancy. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at Uchiha Madara with admiring eyes and said. Uchiha Madara came back to his senses, and suddenly understood that burning a fire is really burning a fire, and adding firewood is really adding firewood. Just now, he was really just heating up the cooking pot. Uchiha Madara's self-esteem was shattered. Trembling with despair, his expression gradually distorted. "I am going to kill you," Uchiha Madara yelled, reaching out his hands desperately to pinch Uchiha Kiyoshi's neck. Uchiha Kiyoshi was taken aback by Uchiha Madara's ferocious face in front of him, and quickly pulled Uchiha Madara's chakra to the proportion of ordinary people. Hatake Sakumo was so shocked that he quickly put down the pot in his hand, and slapped Uchiha Madara's neck with a knife. Because Uchiha Kiyoshi lowered Uchiha Madara's physical condition, Hatake Sakumo easily succeeded. Uchiha Madara's body softened, the armor made a rustling sound, and fell to the ground. Uchiha Kiyoshi scratched his head, puzzled and said, "What's going on? Why is it calm for a while and crazy for a while?" Hatake Sakumo dragged Uchiha Madara's body and placed him on a stool beside him against the wall. "I think that a hero like Uchiha Madara should have the strongest heart and self-esteem in the whole world. I obeyed you just now, probably because I thought you were a god of death, and then misunderstood the meaning of your words." Hatake Sakumo continued to turn on the fire of the stove with the fire escape, and then continued to cook. While flipping through the dishes in the pot, he smiled. He didn't expect that he would come into contact with the legendary Uchiha Madara in this way. Uchiha Kiyoshi recalled what he said, and suddenly realized. So this is awe. He glanced at the unconscious Uchiha Madara, then looked out of the window through the window, and murmured, "I do have some far-reaching ideas, which should be in line with his wishes, but that should be a long time later." Hatake Sakumo wiped the sweat off his forehead with a towel, thought for a while, and didn't respond. After a while, Uchiha Madara woke up leisurely, looked at everything in front of him in confusion, and said to himself, "My Moon Eye project." Uchiha Kiyoshi just wanted to explain, but after Uchiha Madara fully regained his energy, his expression immediately returned to normal. He could not see the slightest bit of loneliness, his eyes rolled, as if he started to calculate again. This was also beyond Uchiha Kiyoshi's expectation. Probably, the castle of an ambitious man like him is as unpredictable as an abyss. Uchiha Madara glared at Uchiha Ching, and said, "You can also revive my younger brother Konoha, right?" Chapter 11 Uchiha Madara's Plan. Uchiha Ching thought for a while. This kind of thing should be able to answer Uchiha Madara. Anyway, a large number of people will be resurrected in the future, and the resurrection of Uchiha Izumi should also be in the plan. Whether Uchiha Madara opens his mouth or not, he will do it. "That's right, I can do it," Uchiha Kiyoshi replied in a positive tone. After receiving Sarutobi Hiruzen's order, Sugihara brought the members of the perception class to Konoha East Street anxiously, and continued to track down the powerful chakra. Everything on the street is as usual, and the residents of Konoha are immersed in work or entertainment as usual. But it was such a warm atmosphere that made all the ninjas in the perception class more nervous, afraid of sudden irreversible accidents. Such a powerful chakra is as conspicuous as a mountain standing in front of them, and they quickly moved in the direction of chakra. Suddenly, this chakra disappeared, and I couldn't feel it at all. "Captain, chakra has disappeared," a member of the perception class said to Sugihara. Sugihara and his team members all stopped, looking at the Konoha big street in a daze for a while. What's going on? Did he leave, or did he hide his chakra breath in some way? Sugihara looked at his teammates while talking, hoping someone could answer him. But at this time, the members of the perception class looked at each other, unable to decide what to do. Sugihara looked towards Konoha Street. He couldn't just leave like that. "Keep looking, even if you search door to door, you have to find some clues." "Yes." The members of the perception class took orders in unison. After listening to Uchiha Kiyoshi's reply, Uchiha Madara laughed at himself and said, "The contract of the god of death is really unimaginable. If I can resurrect my brother just by lighting a fire for you, I will also sign this contract." After a while of tossing around, things became easier. Uchiha laughed and said, "Of course it's not just as simple as lighting a fire. Uchiha Madara looked at Uchiha Kiyoshi coldly, snorted, and said, "I knew it, you would increase the price, let's say, no matter what the request is, as long as it can resurrect my brother, even if it is to sacrifice my soul, I will agree to." Uchiha Kiyoshi folded his arms across his chest. "It's not that complicated. I can't cook with your soul. In this way, my restaurant is very short of manpower now, and the chef has been taken by that uncle. You will be in charge of the waiter in the future. Tisk. You might as well sell your soul." Although Uchiha Kiyoshi just put forward his needs in a normal tone, in Uchiha Madara's view, this is already a great humiliation. He was the eldest son of the Uchiha patriarch since he was born, and then he went up step by step, and rarely served others. Since then, he has gradually climbed to the pinnacle of the ninja world, secondary, looking down on the world, and now he has been reduced to a third-rate restaurant waiter. However, from the moment Konoha left, Uchiha Madara understood that all forbearance is necessary. He has been dormant underground for so long, so it doesn't matter if he endures it for a while. Now that he has been resurrected, there are infinite possibilities in the future. Uchiha Madara suppressed his strong dissatisfaction, and calmly replied, "Okay, I promise, I'll come to the waiter." Uchiha Ching replied, "Thank you for joining." Boom. 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 There was a knock on the door, and the three of them looked outside together. Now that the door is closed, who will knock on the door? Hatake Sakumo reacted and reminded. The chakra exposed when Uchiha Madara appeared just now is too large. It may be that the high-level officials came to investigate. Uchiha Ching nodded, and asked Hatake Sakumo to lead Uchiha Madara to hide for a while. Uchiha Kiyoshi walked to the door of the store, opened the door, and a group of ninjas with serious faces stood at the door. Sugihara looked into the store, frowned slightly, always felt that something was wrong. The location of this restaurant was very close to the direction he had perceived before. "Excuse me, what's the matter?" Uchiha Kiyoshi asked, pretending to be puzzled. Standing by the Sugihara tree, a dark-skinned, stout ninja said, "Routine investigation. Your restaurant was still open yesterday, why did it suddenly close?" "It was said that it was for renovation, but I didn't see you guys doing it." Uchiha Kiyoshi thumped a bit in his heart. His face was still calm as usual, and he replied, "Our small shop is too short of manpower, so we need to rectify it temporarily. As a child, I don't know much about business. The decoration is to buy some tables and chairs." Uchiha Kiyoshi barely prevaricates. The contrast of the picture made him feel a little funny. "Just now I was talking and laughing happily with Uchiha Madara, the nine-tailed knight, but now I am cautious in front of a few ordinary ninjas. It's being renovated, why isn't it being renovated?" Hatake Sakumo's voice came from inside the store. Uchiha Kiyoshi watched curiously along with the ninjas of the perception class. Hatake Sakumo came out with tools in both hands, and Uchiha Madara was beside him. Uchiha Madara also used the transformation technique to change his appearance. He took off his ninja armor, dressed in plain clothes, his long hair changed to short, and he looks honest, with a simple personality and a little slow reaction. Looks like an ordinary guy. As long as he wants, Uchiha Madara can still hide his domineering, pretend to be amiable and approachable. When he was underground, that's how he fooled around. Uchiha Madara winked at Uchiha Kiyoshi, and Uchiha Kiyoshi understood, and immediately raised Uchiha Madara's chakra ratio a little. Sugihara felt that these two people were unfamiliar and a little suspicious. "Who are they?" Uchiha paused, and said, "It's the two employees I recruited, who else could it be?" Sugihara stepped forward, facing Hatake Sakumo and Uchiha Madara. At this moment, he was aggressive, and he didn't know who he was facing. "Take out your ids and have a look." Uchiha Kiyoshi calmed down as much as possible, waiting for Uchiha Madara and Hatake Sakumo to play. Hatake Sakumo and Uchiha Madara stepped forward and took out their arms, but when they stretched out their hands, there was nothing in their hands, and they handed them over naturally. Sugihara also took it naturally, and took a few serious glances at the air. "Well, no problem, take it back." Uchiha Kiyoshi looked back, and the rest of the ninjas present also showed no abnormality. Obviously, they were all hit by Uchiha Madara's illusion. Sugihara made a gesture of returning, and then led his subordinates out the door. Before leaving, Sugihara exhorted. "Excuse me, during the war, anything unexpected may happen, so be careful." I will. Uchiha Kiyoshi responded with a few words, watched them go away, let out a long sigh of relief, and gently closed the door. After removing the disguise, Uchiha Madara immediately showed a disgusted expression. "According to the past, these bastards are not worthy of my illusion." Uchiha Kiyoshi faced Uchiha Madara and said in a brisk tone, "Welcome new employees. As a welcome, you can order a table of dishes you like, and we will try our best to satisfy you." Uchiha Madara opened his eyes and said awkwardly, "Also, let's forget it." Chapter 12. Uchiha Kiyoshi naturally doesn't care whether Uchiha Madara is willing or not. Everyone is not dirty and will be hungry. 3 people must eat at the same table. If you don't order, then I'll buy what I like. Uchiha Kiyoshi went out and bought some good dishes like chicken wings and seafood. "I use sushi as a side dish, but it is troublesome to make, so I just buy ready-made ones. It was summer, and the heat was scorching, so I bought a few iced mung bean soups along the way." With Konoha's existing diet system, iconic drinks such as cola and milk tea have not yet appeared, and Kiyoshi Uchiha also began to think about making it himself. When the food was ready and served, Uchiha Madara's eyes twitched a few times, and he picked up the chopsticks awkwardly. He had already tried it just now, and the entire restaurant was surrounded by a domineering barrier, and he couldn't walk out of this door at all. The enthusiasm brought by the resurrection was gradually extinguished by the cold reality. Uchiha Madara picked up a piece of braised chicken wings and looked at it. His planned resurrection was obviously to realize his huge ambition, so why did he eat home-cooked food here? He shook his head slightly and ate it. "If you come, you will be safe. Adapting to the environment is the basic quality of a ninja. Well, it's pretty tasty. The sauce is very tasty," and Uchiha Madara chewed the bones of the chicken wings. Seeing that Uchiha Madara's face eased, Uchiha Kiyoshi took this opportunity and said to Madara, "Don't be too sad, Obito doesn't necessarily want to resurrect you, they want to realize the Moon Eye project alone, and create a Urin world." Uchiha Madara's face darkened the more he heard it, thinking how this kid knew everything. Now that he knew about the Moon's Eye project and Obito, he naturally knew that Nohara Rin's death was actually planned by him alone. Hatake Sakumo didn't understand the connection, and thought he had found a point where he could answer the conversation. "Oh, I remember, you said that Obito Uchiha was my son's teammate, but didn't you say he was dead? Didn't he die?" Uchiha Kiyoshi and Uchiha Madara fell silent together, picked up the bowl and pretended to be grilling rice, and covered their faces with the bowl. This topic is a bit embarrassing. Although Hatake Sakumo was quick-witted, he couldn't think that far, only felt that these 2 people had something to hide from him, and raised his eyebrows suspiciously. Kiyoshi Uchiha suddenly thought, in terms of seniority, how many generations have passed between himself and Madara Uchiha. When night fell, Sugihara stopped the investigation and returned to Hokage's office to report to Hirozuru Sarutobi. After intensive use of perception ninjutsu for a day, his spirit was already extremely tired, but what was even more tortuous was that he hadn't found anything. "Master Hokage, that chakra suddenly disappeared halfway, without any warning, and I didn't even notice the slightest change in position." Sarutobi Hiruza took a sip of the cigarette holder and rubbed the space between his brows, but he couldn't think of a reason. Is it really some old monster who knows how to use time and space ninjutsu? But there seems to be nothing else except the Flying Thunder God art that can achieve this effect of coming and going without a trace. Sugihara added, "It may also be the art of reverse psychics. Union also has the art of heavenly gift, but it has strict requirements on the physique of the person to be sent." Hirozuru Sarutobi waved his hand, interrupting him. "The method is not important anymore, the key is who this chakra comes from. However, this person's first appearance did not cause trouble in Konoha, which may show that his arrival is not a bad thing." Hirozuru Sarutobi smiled wryly and shook his head, feeling like words of comfort to himself. Hey, let me talk to Danzong, he always has a lot of information that he doesn't share with me. At night, Uchiha Kiyoshi arranged for Uchiha Madara to live upstairs. The location of Wadao Restaurant is actually a 3-story building. The first floor is a restaurant, and the second and third floors are occupied by people. It used to be rented to others for rent. But now Uchiha Kiyoshi is afraid to rent this place to others. Early the next morning, Uchiha Kiyoshi arranged for Uchiha Madara to serve the dishes. Forget about standing by the stove and acting as a humanoid igniter. Often some ignorant children accidentally opened the curtain of the back kitchen when looking for the toilet. If you see this scene that violates the standard, although it can be solved with illusion, it is not necessary. But asking Uchiha Madara to serve the plate also made Uchiha Kiyoshi very nervous. Early morning is the breakfast stall, and the main source of customers is workers who start work early in the morning. By the time Kiyoshi Uchiha yawned and went downstairs slowly, the first guest was already sitting on a chair and waiting. Hatake Sakumo was carrying a spoon in the kitchen, while Uchiha Madara folded his hands on his chest, leaning against the wall with a cold face. The aloofness exuding from his whole body didn't match his plain guy attire at all. After a while, Uchiha Madara walked into the back kitchen and came out with a noodle bowl in one hand. Walking up to the guest, he said without any ups and downs in his tone, "The udon noodles you want." The guest was quite frightened by this tone, feeling as if he had offended someone. I just wanted to complain, but when I looked up and saw Uchiha Madara's stern face, I felt the overwhelming momentum coming towards me. This look of contempt seems to be threatened by someone in my ear. If you don't eat the noodles obediently, if I see a drop of noodle soup left, I will throw you under the stove and burn it. How dare you say a word, I'll put your head in the noodle soup. Quote. Afraid that his words would get stuck in his throat, he dared not speak out. He lowered his head silently, picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Uchiha Madara knew that the other party was frightened by him, squinted his eyes, and continued to lean back against the wall. Uchiha Kiyoshi watched from a distance. It seems that Uchiha Madara has restrained enough, but it is better for this kind of scene to happen less. He walked over to Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara glanced at Uchiha Ching coldly. Are you going to preach? Use the old, "customer is king," phrase. Uchiha Madara shook his head with a smile, and said in a half-joking tone. I just think there are some words that can make you more accepting of the current situation. For example, he lowered his voice so that no one else could hear him. If it were Senju Bashirama, he would serve the guests cheerfully. If the guests complained that he was not satisfied, he would bow and apologize and review his own shortcomings. This sentence touched Uchiha Madara's mind. He gritted his teeth, showing displeasure. How come this person is his descendant in name, but he speaks like a person of his time? That idiot Hashirama is indeed like this. In terms of identity, he has no self-awareness as Hokage at all, and makes unnecessary concessions everywhere. Do you want to say that this is an advantage? Uchiha smiled and said nothing. He thought for a while, and decided not to hit Madara with another sentence, that is, so, everyone elected him as Hokage. Should he not say it? Uchiha Madara thought of it himself. Uchiha Kiyoshi put away his smile, and leaned against the wall in the same posture as Uchiha Madara, and found that he could not look coldly at him at all. Let's change the angle. You can't do what Kyansho Zujian can do, just like you couldn't compare to him in the past. Uchiha Madara squinted at Uchiha Kiyoshi. Do you think it's funny to coax children like this? Uchiha Kiyoshi replied, it's not a bad thing to try to change yourself. If you disagree with me, just talk about it. Chapter 13 Cage Level Guiding Chunin. Uchiha Madara raised his head slightly, thinking of the creek covered with pebbles, which now seems to be the starting point of all stories. I have to admit that he and Sensho Zujian are two people with very different personalities. Uchiha Madara did not answer Uchiha Kiyoshi. A new guest came, and he was going to work again, so he put his hands down, walked away from the wall and walked silently. Uchiha Kiyoshi sighed softly, feeling as if he really wanted to summon so many cage-level powerhouses to come to him, but he might not be able to manage them. In the evening, Kiyoshi Uchiha's restaurant closed after receiving customers from the dinner stall. There is no night stall, so the only chef, Uncle Hatake Sakumo, can take a rest. Secondly, Uchiha Kiyoshi himself has to spare time for training. Kiyoshi Uchiha is a young man with a slash, but he can't tell whether restaurants are side jobs or ninjas are side jobs. Maybe one day the front line is tight, and he will go to the battlefield. All lower ninjas have to go to the battlefield, and his Zongnin is no exception. Kiyoshi Uchiha takes a look back at his short ninja career so far. Graduated from the ninja school at the age of 10, and became a chunin at the age of 12. Although he is not as talented as Kakashi and Itachi, he has made rapid progress. But among the entire peer group, it is considered very good. And he doesn't feel like he's the type who works too hard. If it weren't for the emergence of the Gusido system, Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that his life would probably be as described by Shikamaru. Just be a ninja and make some money. Then marry an ordinary woman who is neither beautiful nor ugly, have 2 children, the first is a girl, then a boy. And now there is a super movie class and a movie class in the family. There must be something wrong. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to his backyard, which he transformed into a training ground. Shuriken and kunai can be easily taken in the basket, and wooden stake targets are scattered around. In addition to the fact that the venue is not big enough and it is inconvenient to practice escapism, it can be said that the facilities are perfect. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to the venue and did a 10-minute warm-up, then picked up 4 kunai from the basket. Hold 2 balls in each hand, stand in the middle of the target, close your eyes, and throw out 2 balls first, not directly in the direction of the target. Wait for the 2 kunai to fly for a certain distance, and then throw the other 2 kunai, which are faster and more powerful. Hit the first 2 kunai at a suitable angle to change the trajectory, this time the target is the bullseye. With 2 bangs, 2 kunai were inserted into the bullseye. Uchiha Kiyoshi opened his eyes and nodded with satisfaction. Although he hadn't exercised for a long time, his hands still felt familiar. And he discovered that after Hatake Sakumo used his body to fight Kakashi last time, he actually learned the water escape and water chaos naturally by relying on body memory. He was controlled by others to fight, and he actually gained ninjutsu and combat experience through body memory. From this, Uchiha Kiyoshi thought of a special way of cultivation. Uchiha Madara didn't know when he was standing at the door of the backyard. He just took a look and commented on Uchiha Kiyoshi's performance just now. The method of exerting force is wrong, the angle is not precise enough, and the result is that the force is not enough. Although you hit the target, it will fall when the wind blows. Uchiha Madara speaks simply and directly, usually to the point. Although efficient, he often ignores the mood of the audience. Even well-intentioned words sound like finding fault. Uchiha Kiyoshi was thinking about how to express to Uchiha Madara gently, "Our food is like this, please stop talking about it." Facing the pointing of the strong, you can only accept it. After all, you can't refute, you do what you want. With a thought, Uchiha Chinshin said to Uchiha Madara, "Do you want to exercise your muscles and bones?" Uchiha Madara glanced at the venue and shook his head. This kind of simple training is fine. How about the strength of that stir-fried dish? I want to try it with him. According to your request, it shouldn't attract the weak. Sure enough, Uchiha Madara has the gene of fighting in his bones, and he wants to try it with everyone. Kiyoshi Uchiha shook his head. Sakumo Hatake had been busy all day, so let him rest. I mean another way. Uchiha Kiyoshi snapped his fingers and shared his body consciousness with Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara was stunned for a moment, his own figure appeared in his vision, and at the same time felt that his body felt very awkward and uncomfortable. He raised his hands and feet and looked around, only to realize that he was controlling Uchiha Kiyoshi's body. It's really strange that an ordinary chunin who claims to be Shinigami possesses so many weird abilities. Uchiha Madara couldn't help thinking about the connection behind it. Uchiha Kiyoshi said through consciousness, using a body that is much weaker than the main body is equivalent to moving forward with a load. How does it feel? He can be regarded as communicating with Uchiha Madara. If Uchiha Madara disagrees, it's fine. The fresh body did give Uchiha Madara a different kind of freshness, and he couldn't help but think of the days when he was a teenager and threw shurikens at the stakes in the scorching heat decades ago. If there was no persecution from Kyansho Zujian, he probably wouldn't be cultivating so desperately. Uchiha Madara felt Uchiha Kyoshi's body. Sharingan is not open, the body function is low, and the chakra in the meridian is like a stuck faucet, which is pitifully small. I can't feel the proficiency of any escape technique. Suddenly a thought flashed through his mind. What would happen if he took advantage of Uchiha Kyoshi's inattention and controlled his body to kill him? Uchiha Madara immediately dismissed this idea. There are too many uncertainties in it. Once he fails, he will tear his face with Uchiha Kyoshi, and will Uchiha Kyoshi's death cause him to be sent back to the pure land of the underworld? It is also an unknown. Let's wait until Kwana is resurrected. Maybe there will be a chance in the future, so let's gain the trust of this kid first. Uchiha Madara controlled Uchiha Kyoshi's body, twisted his neck, moved at will, and quickly adapted. It's like trying a children's meal suddenly, it's very fresh. What a strange analogy. Uchiha Kyoshi cursed a few words. Madara Uchiha took a deep breath and walked to the edge of the backyard. Let me teach you what real escapism is. Uchiha Madara explained while forming seals. Many people think that the amount of chakra is more important than the proficiency of escapism. As long as there is enough chakra, the power of escapism will be great no matter what. This is true in itself, but they may not know that a perfect release of escapism, it's going to be an explosion of beauty. Quote, Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. After Uchiha Madara finished printing, he smiled slightly. Art fire escape ho fireball. Flames gushed out from Uchiha Madara's mouth. Uchiha Kyoshi watched in shock as the light of the flame expanded rapidly, directly covering his entire backyard. This is a large fireball with a radius of tens of meters. This doesn't seem to be the visual effect that my poor chakra level should show. In order to avoid causing a burning fire in the backyard, Uchiha Madara only showed it a little, and then cancelled the fire escape. Understood. Uchiha Madara said. I don't really understand, can you do it a few more times? Kyoshi Uchiha wanted to watch it a few more times. Your chakra is not enough. Chapter 14 Crazy Wednesday. Kyoshi Uchiha was embarrassed. Chakra is indeed a problem, just like money, everyone has it and everyone lacks it. After enjoying 2 more visual feasts of fire escape, Uchiha Madara controlled Uchiha Kyoshi's body to perform basic gymnastics exercises. Uchiha Kyoshi found that Uchiha Madara's skills are the same as his own character, full of domineering. Every movement is aimed at causing damage. If there is a strong body as a support, it is indeed conceivable to use one as 1,000. While watching, Uchiha Kyoshi couldn't help being amazed. The whole set of movements was done like flowing water, without the slightest sloppiness, and he could learn useful things almost everywhere. The training lasted until the evening. Uchiha Madara had almost lost his interest, and Uchiha Kyoshi was exhausted to the extreme. His whole body was sore, and he had to hold on to the wall when going upstairs. One day passed, and Uchiha Madara officially stayed. Now that 2 souls have been summoned, the number of wishes provided every day has reached 60. In other words, in more than 10 days, Kyoshi Uchiha can recruit a new employee again. More than 10 days later, Konoha Street was as calm as ever. Uchiha Itachi ran with all his strength on the street, and stopped in front of his favorite izakaya full of anticipation. But the big characters in front of the door poured cold water on him. Dumplings are sold out. I can't eat his favorite 3-color meatball today. If it weren't for the temporary increase in training tasks assigned by his father, he wouldn't have missed it. There was no way. Uchiha Itachi had no choice but to walk towards home with his head down in frustration. At least there's still mom's dessert to eat. Itachi, don't be sad. A familiar voice called Uchiha Itachi. The current Uchiha Itachi is only 4 years old, and he is not tall. He needs to raise his head hard to see the opponent's face clearly. A sense of intimacy welled up in my heart. Brother Shishui. Uchiha Shisui cheerfully put his hand on Uchiha Itachi's shoulder. I knew that you were held back by the patriarch, and you would definitely not be able to grab today's meatballs, so I ended the mission a little earlier and came here to wait for you. Uchiha Itachi's complexion turned from cloudy to sunny, and he said happily. You mean you bought it for me? No, it was sold out when I came. Uchiha Shisui opened his hand. Uchiha Itachi squinted his eyes, looking at his good brother with disdain. Then why are you acting like the savior who came to save me? Uchiha Shisui smiled and touched Uchiha Itachi's head. Of course I'm here to amuse the kids. Uchiha Itachi's face gradually swelled up with anger. There was a kunai in the package, and he really wanted to take it out to make a gesture. Uchiha Itachi's eyes were resentful, and before he got completely angry, Uchiha Shisui quickly added. I found a treasure restaurant. There is a new cold drink called Sundae. I think it is much more delicious than the three-color meatball. It's very similar to what you say to coax a child after you find out that you have said something wrong. Uchiha Shisui smiled awkwardly. Aren't you just a child? I didn't lie to you this time. You said the same thing last time. I didn't lie to you this time, and then let me go. It's different this time. You'll know when you come with me. Uchiha Shisui knew that the debate with the children would be endless, so he immediately dragged Uchiha Itachi to the Hinata restaurant on East Street. As soon as he walked nearby, Uchiha Itachi saw many people gathered around the door, and they seemed to be diners waiting for food. Today is the weekly snack day of this restaurant. It only sells snacks and does not cook main dishes. Many people are looking forward to this day. Uchiha Itachi blinked in surprise, and murmured, the business is really good, it seems really good. At the entrance of Wadao restaurant, a pregnant woman with fiery red hair stood in line, with her hands lightly resting on her stomach. Boss, how long do we have to wait for the queue? My Naruto and I are hungry. Ouch. He kicked my stomach just now. He seems to have something to say, let me listen. Uzumaki Kushina pouted lightly, with a dazed look on her face, pretending to listen carefully. Little Naruto said, if you don't eat a strawberry sundae today, you won't go to bed. Hey, it's not me who wants to eat it, it's my little Naruto who wants to eat it. In the store, Uchiha Kiyoshi, Hatake Sakumo, and Uchiha Madara were busy and sweating profusely because of the customer's order. After the sundae was launched, the business was much better than Kiyoshi Uchiha imagined. With limited manpower, it is too busy just to deal with the customers who come to buy snacks. So Kiyoshi Uchiha designated every Wednesday as the exclusive snack day for their restaurant. No main dishes are sold this day, only snacks. Because the business is too hot and overcrowded, Konoha residents call this day, Crazy Wednesday. After Uchiha Madara handed out a stack of sundaes in one breath, he wiped the sweat on his forehead with a towel, and kept asking himself, what am I doing? What's the point of these jobs? Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled and said, Miss Kushina, don't worry, it will be ready soon, it will be ready soon. Gentleman in front, do you want this pregnant woman to order first? Uchiha Kiyoshi did not forget to remind Uchiha Madara with consciousness communication at this time, don't have any thoughts about Ninetales Jinchuriki. Uchiha Madara also complained immediately, I don't have time. Itachi and Jishui also hurried to the end of the long queue. After a while, the line would grow a lot. 5 minutes later, Kushina Uzumaki came out contentedly holding a strawberry sundae and 2 other flavored sundaes. When your mouth is dry in the hot summer, use a spoon to pick up ice cream and strawberry jam and put it in your mouth at the same time. The ice cream melts in the mouth, it is cool and sweet, until it freezes into the stomach, the heat dissipates and the spirit is refreshed. It's delicious. Uzumaki Kushina couldn't help shouting loudly, and walked towards home with small dance steps. Let Minato taste it too. After 15 minutes, Itachi and Shisui walked to the front desk. Shisui said to Uchiha Madara. Hello, 2 chocolate sundaes. It is good. Okay. Uchiha Madara noticed the special breath of the coming person, and took another look at Shisui and Itachi. Just looking at each other, he noticed the unusual pupil power in Uchiha Shisui's eyes. After a while, Uchiha Madara placed 2 cups of chocolate sundaes on the front desk. Shisui and Itachi held a cup each, turned and left talking and laughing. Wow, it's really delicious. Let me just say, it seems that the unbreakable and lofty status of the 3-color meatball is about to change hands. When they turned around, Uchiha Madara saw the Uchiha clan crest behind them. The surface of the fan is fiery red, and the handle is white, as it has been since hundreds of years ago. He was once the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. But he hasn't worn this pattern for a long time and led the clansmen to fight. Even from the day Konoha left, he felt that he was gradually alienated from Uchiha. Shing, what are the names of the 2 children who walked past just now? Uchiha Madara asked. Uchiha Kiyoshi glanced forward. The 2 of them. The big one is called Shisui, and the small one is called Itachi. Chapter 15 Additional Manpower. Uchiha Kiyoshi was a little strange. Before passing so many Uchiha tribesmen under the eyes of Uchiha Madara didn't pay any attention to them. Why did Uchiha Shisui walk over, and he just saw it at a glance? Is it like Jojo said, substitute messengers will attract each other? There will also be subtle connections between Sharingan users. Kiyoshi Uchiha didn't know whether Shisui Uchiha, who was still a teenager at this time, had opened the kaleidoscope Sharingan. But Uchiha Madara must have felt something special from him. Just thinking about it, a new customer came to order again, and Uchiha Kiyoshi had to deal with the matter in front of him temporarily. I can't feel the passage of time in the busy time, and before I know it, the sunset is already hanging on the top of the mountain. As the boss, Kiyoshi Uchiha finally got off work. Although he is the boss, he is lazier than his employees. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the doors are closed. Kiyoshi Uchiha hung a sign on the outside of the door saying, "Materials are exhausted, replenishment is in progress." After closing the door, Kiyoshi Uchiha, Sakumo Hatake and Madara Uchiha came to the backyard, sitting on a small bench to enjoy the shade. There are still some materials left, just enough for the few of us to eat. Hatake Sakumo cheerfully came to the side of the 2 Uchihas with a plate, on which were 3 cups of cold fruit sundae with air conditioning. Madara Uchiha raised his eyebrows. After a busy day, his mouth was dry and he had served dozens of people, but he didn't taste it himself. Uchiha Madara picked up a cup of sundae, and it felt very cool just by holding it up. After taking a sip, it seemed that he fell in love with the whole summer. Uchiha Madara picked up the spoon awkwardly and ate it 1 bite at a time. The corners of the eyes twitch every time I take a bite, and the sense of taste leads the brain at this time. Why is it so delicious? Why do I move my hands when I obviously don't want to eat? He felt that his heart was gradually numb, and he began to enjoy a comfortable life. Uchiha Madara sighed softly and lowered his head. He wants to kill himself now and wait for Nagato to resurrect him. But it can't be done. Uchiha Kiyoshi sneered at Uchiha Madara's expression with a suppressed smile. Life is not easy, Madara sighed. In an unremarkable backyard of Konoha, a time traveler, a lower limit elite jonin, an upper limit cage level uncle, and a super cage level strongman gathered together to eat a sundae. The sundae was finished quickly. Uchiha Madara put down the cup, remembered the 2 Uchiha boys before, turned his head and asked Uchiha Kiyoshi. "Shing, how are the 2 children just now doing in the Uchiha clan?" Uchiha Kiyoshi fanned the wind with a cattail fan and replied. "They are all the only geniuses in the Uchiha clan at present, and it is difficult to find similar qualifications in the entire Konoha." Hatake Sakumo, who looked down at the newspaper, heard the conversation between the 2 of them, raised his head, and wanted to add, "How does it compare to Kakashi?" But after thinking about it, I held back. He knew that it was not easy to stop this topic. Uchiha Madara smiled faintly, thinking that he really didn't miss it. With nearly 100 years of experience, he has seen countless Sharingan. Which is good and which is bad, which is good and which is bad, he knows at a glance. The form of pupil power on Uchiha Shisui's body is very rare. If the kaleidoscope is turned on, it will have unimaginable abilities. Uchiha Madara had a proud face on his face. The Uchiha family is a family rich in geniuses, and there will always be dreadful strong people. Because of this, even if I leave, Konoha will not dare to despise Uchiha. Uchiha Kiyoshi just opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again. He couldn't bear to hit Uchiha Madara. He didn't tell him that, in fact, the thinking of these two top geniuses of the Uchiha family is quite different from his. Just like when Uchiha Madara left Konoha with no one to follow, a peaceful life is the common pursuit. But listening to Uchiha Madara's tone, he obviously still values the Uchiha family very much. Although he ran away that year, no one followed him, which made him fall into an ice cellar. But the long time has washed away the resentment, and what is left is more positive feelings. Uchiha Kiyoshi just shook his head slightly and didn't say much. He stood up and walked into the house. Uchiha Madara turned his head, his eyes followed Uchiha Kiyoshi's movement. He saw Uchiha Kiyoshi walking towards the shrine in the corner of the room. These days, he has been secretly observing Uchiha Kiyoshi's daily habits. Try to find a little breakthrough. Uchiha Madara found that Uchiha Kiyoshi's other behaviors are normal, and they are all what an ordinary person would do every day. The only special thing is that every day he would come to the strange shrine in the corner of the house, put his hands together, pray, and say some inexplicable words. Second Master Guan, bless the business of this small shop. Read in Chinese. Since he couldn't understand, Uchiha Madara naturally guessed that this was some kind of ancient spell, and its function was to connect with the pure land of the underworld. So he secretly wrote down this difficult sentence, and when others were not paying attention, he also came to the shrine to read it. But it doesn't work at all, there is no reaction at all. When Kiyoshi Uchiha faces the shrine will emit a faint light. In addition, Uchiha Madara found that this spell has a special way of pronunciation. He is very uncomfortable, as smart as him, he can't twist his tongue. Could it be that, like some of the weird spells of the Uzumaki clan, special training is required to achieve the effect? There are many doubts and I can't think of solutions. Moreover, he had never seen the statue on the shrine before. With a green hat and red face, one hand strokes his long beard, the other holds a big knife, and a long robe hangs around his body, tall and burly. Although the image was mighty, it was an image he had never seen before. Even the style is rare. Uchiha Madara has been thinking hard for the past few days, trying to understand the mystery behind it from the appearance of this statue. For example, what does the green hat represent? What does the green dragon on the sword represent? But Uchiha Madara gradually discovered that all his attempts were like seeking fish from a tree, and after a circle, he didn't even have a breakthrough idea. This time Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't just stand in front of the shrine to pray in the early morning like before. As the evening approached, he checked suddenly. Could it be that he wanted to summon a new soul from the pure land of the underworld? Uchiha Madara felt uneasy, feeling that the next comer should be difficult to deal with. Uchiha Kiyoshi stood in front of the shrine, watching the statue. After a day of hard work today, he was more determined to expand the number of employees. As the business gradually boomed, 3 people were really not enough. And he doesn't want to do it himself. His ultimate goal is to be a hands-off shopkeeper and achieve the effect of idle management games. Get up early every morning, assign work, and take a look at the profits on the accounts, and the task is considered completed. We are in urgent need of new staff. More than 10 days have passed since Uchiha Madara's arrival, and his wish power has reached 1080, and he can perform a designated summon again. Chapter 16 Your Good Friend, Senju Hashirama. Among the thousands of hands. Uchiha Kiyoshi recited the name silently with consciousness. As with the previous call, the shrine shimmered to indicate a successful response. The soul of Kyansho Zujian was detected. Your current wish power is 1080, which meets the summoning conditions. Do you want to summon? Close black lens bracket. Definitely summon Senju Hashirama. Uchiha Kiyoshi nodded subconsciously while using his consciousness to confirm. Then Uchiha Kiyoshi chose the physical state of Senju Zuma. It is the same period as Uchiha Madara, That is, the physical state during the Battle of the Valley of the End. The process is proficient and one step is in place. The shrine is full of light, and an invisible force connects the world and the pure land of the underworld. Open black lens bracket calling, close black lens bracket. Uchiha Madara looked at the scene in front of him with a complicated mood, wondering if he was summoned like this at the time. But Sakumo Hatake just looked at the newspaper calmly. After all, he had already experienced this kind of scene once. He is used to whispering the contents of the newspaper while reading the newspaper. Jirai was also collecting materials for the novel in the bathhouse. He met Tsunade by chance, and was punched by a strange force until his ribs were broken. Currently, the reporter is continuing to follow up in the hospital. Hatake Sakumo nodded, and murmured, "It seems to be a novel worth looking forward to." The light gradually dimmed, and everything returned to calm. A tall and burly figure stood in front of Uchiha Kiyoshi. Long black hair, wearing a tight black combat uniform, with a red laminated armor on the outside, and the logo of the Thousand Hands is tattooed on the laminated armor on the left shoulder. With a firm face, his whole body exudes a mountain-like calm momentum, not angry and majestic. Konoha's forehead protector pressed tightly against her forehead. Before there was Konoha, there was him first. After Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Kiyoshi summoned Senju Hashirama, the god of ninja. Uchiha Madara looked at Senju Hashirama with mixed feelings in his heart. Both of them looked like adults, and the atmosphere seemed to be back to the eve of the Battle of the Valley of the End. He is a close friend who founded Konoha together, and an enemy who has fought for a lifetime. From the moment they threw stones into the water by the stream, their relationship had already been settled. Uchiha Madara stood up unconsciously, regained consciousness in Senjutsujian, opened his eyes, and walked in front of him. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at these two, as if he wanted to temporarily avoid the stage. This time he learned his lesson, and when he was summoned by Sensho Zujian, he took the initiative to suppress his chakra. Otherwise, after a while, the Konoha perception class would come knocking on the door again. Hirozuru Sarutobi was sitting in Hokage's office, coughing uncontrollably. Cough, cough. Hirozuru Sarutobi was drinking tea while beating his chest lightly. As an old smoker, he would actually choke when smoking. It's all because at the moment when he was puffing, he actually felt the same powerful chakra as last time. This time, before he had time to capture more information, the feeling disappeared and only stayed for less than a second. Hirozuru Sarutobi kept tapping on the table with his fingers, looking confused. He said to himself, "Is it an illusion caused by my work pressure?" Suddenly, a thought flashed in Sarutobi Hirozan's mind. It can't be that kid Orochimaru who is experimenting with the forbidden technique of reincarnation. Thinking of Orochimaru, Hirozuru Sarutobi felt extremely melancholy. He watched his lover grow from a teenager to a ninja step by step, and then walked uncontrollably into the dark abyss. At this time, he wanted to summon the ape demon, and knocked Orochimaru away from his human laboratory with a stick. But so what? Orochimaru's thinking has been corrupted by half, and he knows that there is no way to stop it. Sarutobi Hiruza suddenly lost his heart to work. Sitting at the desk, the tobacco in the pipe is consumed very quickly. Senju Zuma opened his eyes in confusion. With just one breath, the body is full of vitality. He was surprised. This should not be a feeling that a dead person can experience. He raised his head, saw Uchiha Madara, and felt that he was indeed in the underworld. Madara. What level of hell is this? Why does it look like a restaurant? Could it be related to the gluttony in the 7 deadly sins? Uchiha Madara faced each other coldly, and said lightly, "This is in Konoha." Sensho Zujian frowned, and replied, "Madara, this joke is not funny. Do you mean that Konoha is hell? No matter how much you hate Konoha, it is the fruit of the two of us growing together. Even after dying for so long, you still care about not becoming Hokage. Is it wrong? Listen to my advice, Ban. When a person is about to die, his words are good, not to mention, you have already." As Senju Zuma began to speak at length, the veins on Uchiha's head gradually bulged. As soon as he heard this person talking, Uchiha Madara's blood pressure rose unconsciously. The blood was so hot that his hands itched, and he really wanted to fight him. It's just that the embarrassing situation made him have to calm down again. Uchiha adjusted the chakra ratio of these two enemies early in the morning, and the two of them really wanted to fight for real, and one ikebana restaurants were like paper. Uchiha Madara folded his arms on his chest, closed his eyes and took a deep breath tremblingly, trying to restrain his emotions. Seeing this, Senju Zuma continued, "Madara, you are always so irritable, everything can always be discussed." "Enough." Uchiha Madara finally couldn't help but roared. "Mother-in-law, Shing, you can explain to him." Uchiha Madara flicked his hand and stepped back. Uchiha Kiyoshi stepped forward. Uchiha Kiyoshi stretched out his hand and said politely, "Hi, my name is Uchiha Kiyoshi, I'm Shinigami, it's the first time we meet, please take care of me." Sensho Zujian let out an, "Oh," in surprise, lowered his body and stretched out his hand. "After dying for so long, I finally saw you. I didn't expect you to be so young. I thought you would be a scary grimace, with curtains hanging on your body floating around, but why is your surname Uchiha? You are Madara's elder." Hatake Sakumo stood aside and smiled. Unexpectedly, the affinity of the first Hokage-sama was better than imagined. Uchiha Madara on the other side had a growing headache and a heavy heart. Why can he accept the matter of Reaper in one go, and what kind of brain circuit he has, so that he can feel that this brat is my elder? Uchiha Kiyoshi replied with a smile. "I am not Madara's elder, but his junior. You can understand that this is the image of my activities in the world." Then he shook hands with Senju Zuma in a friendly manner. Feeling the warmth from the generous palm, Uchiha Kiyoshi felt that Senju Hashirama was really much easier to get along with than Uchiha Madara. Even without too much explanation, Sensho Zujian can accept it naturally. "So that's how it is. It's really powerful. You deserve to be Mr. Shinigami." Senju Zuma agreed deeply, nodded and replied. He looked around again, scratched his head and asked curiously, "Mr. Reaper, where is this? You just said that this is your image in the world, so this can't be the world." Senju Zuma thought of what Uchiha Madara said just now, and quickly deduced the conclusion. At this time, a child's voice came from outside the door. "Mom, I want a chocolate sundae." "Silly boy, this is closed, come back tomorrow." "Damn. They are so lazy, they get off work so early." "Really?" Kyansho Zujian was stunned in place. Is this really Konoha? Chapter 17 Tit for Tat. The wheels of the trolley were sliding on the ground, and the hawkers yelling had the characteristic accent of the country of fire. The words of the yelling were connected to form a rhyming ballad. "Kids are playing noisily, classic ninja game. I don't know who suddenly said outside, where the leaves are flying, the fire is always alive." Just listening to the sound, Senju Bashima thought of Konoha's streets, shops, and the flow of people. Seeing Senjujuma's shocked expression, Kiyoshi Uchiha gave an affirmative answer. "Hashirama, this is indeed Konoha." Uchiha Kiyoshi did not use honorific titles such as Hokage-sama and First-Generation Sama for Senjujuma. He has already called Uchiha Madara by his first name. For the sake of unity within the company, it is better to unify. Kyansho Zujian swallowed his saliva. He understood the current situation, but it took some time to accept and digest. Uchiha Kiyoshi continued to add, "It's just that it's been a long time since you died. Not long after you passed away, the peace agreement gradually disintegrated, and the First Ninja World War broke out among the big countries. The second Hokage died in that battle. To make a long story short, your granddaughter Tsunade is now in her 30s, and the current Hokage is your brother's disciple Hirozuru Sarutobi." Senjujuma woke up like a dream. He didn't process too much information in his mind like Uchiha Madara, but simply sighed. "Tsunade is so big, and the monkeys are Hokage. It seems that it has been a long time. I have already thought that the fate of Tomonama will be similar to mine." Many years have passed, and Sensho Zujian has many questions in his heart, but first he needs to find out the reason for his resurrection. "Then may I ask, Mr. Death God, why did you break the iron law of reincarnation and summon me, a dead person? Then Kiyoshi Uchiha introduced the current situation of Hinata Restaurant to Senshozuma in detail, including its geographical location, personnel composition, development goals and so on. Generally speaking, we are short of people. Uchiha Kiyoshi concluded. Senshozuma thought for a while and said, that means your restaurant needs help, right? Uchiha nodded. Senju Bashima glanced at Uchiha Madara next to him. His face sank suddenly, his originally peaceful atmosphere turned into a majestic one, and he issued a questioning tone. But how can I be sure that you are not lying to me? Even if this is not reincarnation, I cannot rule out the possibility of other forbidden techniques. Uchiha Madara and Senjujuma are working in your shop at the same time, you know that means what? It's not even a joke, is it? Senju Bashirama's temperament changed rapidly. Uchiha Kiyoshi just thought that Senju Bashirama had fully accepted it. However, this is a bit of a fire shadow. Uchiha Madara glanced at the two of them. In fact, he still doesn't know what this Uchiha Kiyoshi wants. If it's just to open a shop, there is no need to use such a high combat power. Moreover, most of the strong have strong self-awareness, and recruiting them is equivalent to laying mines for themselves. Hatake Sakumo thought about it for a while, and remembered that when Kiyoshi Uchiha chatted with him, the reason for calling Senjujuma was can make furniture and add free firewood. Uchiha Kiyoshi restrained his expression, and said in a slow tone. I believe you also understand that when you died, there were still many unresolved hidden dangers in the entire ninja world. Over the past few decades, these hidden dangers are like poison vines that are constantly sprouting and spreading in the dark, parasitic growth. Eventually it's going to be a disaster one day. Also, there are a lot of people watering these poison ivy to make it fat. Uchiha Madara knew that Uchiha Kiyoshi was hinting at him, so he squinted his eyes and remained silent. A trace of solemnity flashed between Kyansho Zujian's brows. Like. Uchiha Kiyoshi paused for a few seconds, and then replied, for example, in the Battle of End Valley, you seemed to protect Konoha, but Uchiha Madara bit off a piece of meat, so Uchiha Madara has Sensho the power of a family. Uchiha Madara snorted coldly, thinking that this kid really knew the ins and outs of the whole thing. Not only the direction of the matter is known, but even the details are clearly known. Those short words made Senshozuma's heart tremble, and cold sweat broke out on his head. All the details of the battle at that time flashed through his mind. On the Valley of the End, Shanshu Muden faced up to the prestige Susanoo, and he fought with Uchiha Madara in a dark battle. I don't know how long it took, the two of them fought until they were exhausted, and they were both at the end of their strength. Chakra was exhausted, so they had to fight hand to hand. The replay of the screen became slow, and Sensho Bashima found that strange scene. Uchiha Madara suddenly jumped up and bit off a piece of meat on his forearm. Even though each of them has reached the limit of hysteria, this kind of action is meaningless from the perspective of combat. It's cheating to get what you want from him. Behind this lies a deeply buried plan. There is no doubt that the peace of Konoha will be jeopardized in the end. Senju Bashirama's face suddenly sank, endless anger welled up in his heart, and he stared at Uchiha Madara with frosty eyes. He stepped on the ground suddenly, and the texture of the fairy pattern appeared on his face. The floor shattered, splinters flew, and dark green trees grew from the cracks. The sudden burst of Chakra's air wave raised the long hair and shoulder armor of Sensho Bashira. The other three were all intimidated by the sudden eruption from Kyansho Zujian. Uchiha Kiyoshi realized that although he suppressed Senjujuma's own physical state, the Senjutsu chakra originated from natural energy and was not directly controlled by him. It is equivalent to the added value beyond the body chakra, which comes from the outside. Madara. Invite it as it is, your plot. Senju Bashima shouted loudly, like thunder, impacting Uchiha Kiyoshi and the three of them's eardrums. Uchiha Madara was still expressionless, even though he knew that his physical condition had been greatly suppressed and he was completely unable to match Senju Hashirama in the immortal mode. He did not have the slightest timidity or fear. No comment. Hashirama, you are the naive side. You always only think about making peace with each other, and you can't solve any problems. You don't care about Uchiha's fate at all. Uchiha Madara replied coldly, also staring at Senju Hashirama. The seemingly unrelated words are his dissatisfaction and resentment towards Sensho Zujian for many years. The two looked at each other, and the aura of daggers drawn seemed to have returned to many years ago. Hatake Sakumo felt the conflict between Konoha's two powerhouses up close, and was somewhat shocked. Uchiha's clear consciousness is drawn, but fortunately, when the Senshu chakra becomes part of the Senjujuma chakra, it belongs to his control again. He hurriedly controlled the physical state of Kyansho Zujian and suppressed Shanshu chakra. Rishi mode eye shadows and patterns fade from Senjujuma's face. The wildly growing trees on the ground also stopped, standing quietly in place, their branches and leaves swaying. Sensho Bashima found that the chakra in his body was rapidly weakening, and finally the chakra breath became the same as that of ordinary people. He realized that this should be done by the young man who claimed to be the god of death. No wonder he couldn't feel the majestic chakra breath of the past from Uchiha Madara. Although Kiyoshi Uchiha restrained Senjujuma's chakra, the conflict has not been resolved yet. These two are still ready to fight at any moment. Chapter 18 Let's Fight. Uchiha Kiyoshi's idea is that short-term pain is worse than long-term pain. Anyway, the conflict between these two has a long history, and the seeds of the story have been planted long ago. Instead of waiting until a conflict arises later to resolve it, it is better to spread out a part of it now, and it will be easier to deal with later. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked at the cracked floor and the debris scattered beside it in distress. More difficult to deal with now than the relationship between the two is how to clean and repair the floor. Senjujuma's heart was full of anger, thinking about where to start questioning Uchiha Madara, and he must not let his plan jeopardize Konoha's precious peace. Uchiha Madara looked indifferent, and did not intend to explain to Senjujuma. Compared with Senjuzuma, he cares more about how much the existence of Uchiha Kiyoshi will affect his entire plan. Senjuzuma calmed down, and asked Uchiha Madara again. Madara, let me ask you again, what is your plan? Uchiha Madara was silent, not saying a word. It made Senjuzuma even more annoyed. Hatake Sakumo recalled the last time he solved a similar problem. Uchiha Kiyoshi adjusted Uchiha Madara's physical condition to the level of ordinary people, and then he knocked Uchiha Madara unconscious with a knife in one hand. This method is really simple and crude. But he felt that this method could not always be used. This other one is the first generation of Hokage. When you go out and turn right, you can see his head on the Hokage rock when you look up. If it is not a last resort, find another way. Just as the atmosphere was gradually solidifying and the scene was deadlocked to the extreme, Uchiha Kiyoshi walked to the middle between Uchiha Madara and Senjuju, and said loudly, "Don't just stand there, let's fight." The three of them, including Sakumo Hatake, looked at Kiyoshi Uchiha in shock, not knowing what the meaning behind his words was. Senjuzuma turned his face away and said, "What do you mean?" Kiyoshi Uchiha said this just to draw their attention to himself. He said peacefully, "Since I summoned you, I am ready to explain everything to you. As I said before, I summoned you to solve the problem, and I hope you can trust me." Hatake Sakumo listened to this conversation as if listening to a riddle. Uchiha Madara is very curious how Uchiha Kiyoshi will destroy his plan. In fact, he doesn't know how far Obito's plan has come. He just specified a general direction for Obito. As for the progress of the development, he doesn't know. Seeing Uchiha Kiyoshi's sincere attitude, Senjuzuma understood something. Indeed, if you just use him as a pawn, mandatory mind control like spells would be much more convenient. There is no need to waste so much time. Senju Bashima glanced at Uchiha Madara. No matter what, he still regarded Uchiha Madara as a close friend. However, if anyone wants to destroy Konoha's precious peace, even a close friend, he will kill without hesitation. Sensho Zujian gently closed his eyes, meditated for a while, and then slowly said, "You said your restaurant is short of help, so I'll help. But before that, I want to have a good chat with Madara." Compared with Senjujuma, who passed away peacefully in Konoha, Uchiha Madara has been hiding and dormant in the darkness underground for many years since the Battle of the Valley of the End. The heart has long been as cold as frost. Uchiha Madara replied coldly. The past is like smoke, there is nothing to talk about, you can't change me, and I can't change you. It's just that I have always been a loser. Uchiha Madara's face was thrown away, and Senju Bashima's face was gloomy. He took off a leaf from the tree he summoned by himself, rubbed it gently with his hand, and said, Madara, it's been a long time since we've tried it. Uchiha Madara raised his head slightly. Uchiha Kiyoshi noticed that Uchiha Madara's arm moved a little, and this small movement indicated that Uchiha Madara seemed to be tempted. This man really likes to fight. Uchiha Madara has fighting genes in his blood. If it's just a simple battle, Uchiha Madara can be considered. If it was a fight with Sensho Zujian, then there was no reason to refuse. The rivalry between him and Kionshuju has spanned decades, and he has long been used to it. Uchiha Kiyoshi added a sentence at this appropriate time. The backyard is relatively spacious. Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama glanced at him at the same time, then stepped forward in unison, walking towards the backyard tacitly. Hatake Sakumo shook his head with a wry smile, thinking, the matter is really too complicated. Uchiha Kiyoshi said to Hatake Sakumo, Uncle, please go get a stack of peanuts soaked in vinegar. Hatake Sakumo asked curiously, where is it placed? It's in the backyard, you go get some food, I'll go find 2 benches, let's watch together. Uchiha Kiyoshi replied with a smile. Hatake Sakumo came to his senses, laughed loudly, and said as he walked towards the kitchen. Okay, I'll get it now. 2 benches were placed firmly on the ground, and a stack of peanuts soaked in vinegar was placed in the center of the table. Uchiha Kiyoshi picked up chopsticks and picked up a grain of vinegar-flavored peanuts, and turned to look at Uchiha Madara and Senju Bashiramma standing in the backyard of his house. The two stood facing each other about 10 meters apart, their expressions were serious, and they both put on a fighting posture. Their physical condition has been adjusted by Uchiha Kiyoshi to the level of ordinary people, so the next competition will all depend on combat skills and combat experience. The simplest and purest fighting is like returning to their youth. Kionsho Zujian glanced at the leisurely 2 people next to him, thinking how could these 2 still eat? They are competing in a serious way, these 2 people are like watching a play. Uchiha Madara is used to it, and he feels that Uchiha Kiyoshi is relatively serious if he doesn't bring beer to drink. Uchiha Kiyoshi said to Hatake Sakumo on the side. Uncle, who are you suppressing? Hatake Sakumo smiled and shook his head. Shing, you should be more serious. It's not a good thing to like to gamble. You can see that Tsunade is dragged down by gambling. Hatake Sakumo gently taught Uchiha Kiyoshi from the perspective of an elder. Uchiha nodded. Then uncle, who do you think will win? We don't bet on anything. Hatake Sakumo thought for a moment, then replied, I think it's Hashirama-sama. Uchiha Kiyoshi also thought about it seriously, and said, I think so too. The 2 of them were talking one sentence at a time. Senjujuma and Uchiha Madara didn't say much, and they stepped forward at the same time, and they were already fighting in a blink of an eye. Oh, wonderful. Kiyoshi Uchiha couldn't help applauding. Hearing the applause, Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, who were fighting fiercely, had some subtle feelings in their hearts at the same time. Hatake Sakumo frowned slightly, watching intently. He could learn a lot from these 2 fighting. Uchiha Madara moves gorgeously, like a cheetah, swift and precise. Fast and fierce, full of domineering details. Although the frequency of Sensho Zujian's movements was a little lower, his punches and kicks were powerful and heavy. The épée has no sharp edge, and it does not work well. Without sloppiness, every movement can perfectly achieve the expected effect. Chapter 19 Drinking Beer Together. Compared to Uchiha Kiyoshi, Hatake Sakumo is an expert. Uchiha Kiyoshi watched the excitement while eating peanuts, but Hatake Sakumo was studying hard. Although I am no longer a ninja, I still have the habit of earnestly summarizing. Moreover, Sakumo Hatake has been thinking of finding an opportunity to teach Kakashi what he has learned. In the evening, the residual temperature of the setting sun is not as hot as that of the scorching sun at noon. Occasionally a cool wind blows by, and it is very pleasant without a fan. The breeze rustled through the gaps in the leaves of the branches. Uchiha Madara and Senjujuma had already been immersed in the battle, and they were sweating in a short while. In the middle of the fight, Senju Bashima took off his armor and went into battle lightly. The sound of the two fighting echoed in the sky above the backyard. Uchiha Madara, who had been suppressed for a long time, finally ushered in a satisfactory battle, and devoted himself to it. Instead of borrowing someone else's body, every physical collision is very real. Even if he was punched or injured, the pain could actually arouse his desire and fighting spirit for fighting. Uchiha Kiyoshi stared at Uchiha Madara, who was obviously hit on the back by Senju Hashirama's elbow, but the corner of his mouth curved into a smile, which was very strange. Can't help muttering, "Is this the legendary M?" He speculated about Uchiha Madara's psychological activities. Probably because there are not many people in this world who can hurt him. In this case, the injury has become a precious experience, which can make him excited. Uchiha Kiyoshi didn't quite understand this idea. Normal people shouldn't be like this. After a while, Uchiha Kiyoshi and Hatake Sakumo ate 2 plates of peanuts and 1 plate of stewed vegetables. But the energetic Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama seemed to have no stamina bar. They fought indiscriminately and did not take any rest, and kept fighting as the weather changed. For the audience, a contest of just the right length is enjoyment. After that, as long as it exceeds a certain period of time, it will cause aesthetic fatigue, and the longer it drags on, the more torture it will be. The sky was getting late, the setting sun was disappearing on the horizon, the night was hanging high, and the nightingale sang twice when it landed on a high place. Uchiha Kiyoshi yawned, he was full and sleepy. The table was a mess, all leftovers from Uchiha Kiyoshi and Hatake Sakumo. Hatake Sakumo rubbed the center of his brows and used his brain intensively while watching, which also made him a little tired. The movements of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara slowed down visibly. The two were out of breath, but neither of them accepted the other, as if they really wanted to beat one of them down. Uchiha Kiyoshi really admires how it can be done like this in the physical state of an ordinary person. But it looks like they won't last long. Uchiha Kiyoshi stood up and stretched, cleared the table, and said to Hatake Sakumo, "Uncle, they should be tired too, let's prepare some supper for them." "What to prepare?" "Barbecue and beer." Hatake Sakumo moved out the grill from the house and placed the charcoal. Garlic, ginger, chili powder, cumin and other seasonings are arranged in a row. Thread the meat dishes and vegetarian dishes with wooden skewers and put them on the wire rack. Hatake Sakumo snapped his fingers, lit the fire with a torch, and started to cook the barbecue. When the battle was coming to an end, Kiyoshi Uchiha took out a few bottles of cold beer from the house, put them on the table in the backyard, and went to help Sakumo Hatake. "Drink." Uchiha Madara and Sensho Zujian shouted together. Senju Hashirama hit Uchiha Madara in the face with a punch, and Uchiha Madara kicked Senju Hashirama in the waist. Under the pain, the two groaned at the same time, their bodies staggering. In the end, Sensho Bashirama was stronger, and after shaking a few times, he stood firmly without falling. Uchiha Madara didn't hold on, leaned back and fell to the ground. Senju Bashirama stepped forward, reached out and grabbed Uchiha Madara's arm, trying to pull him up. "Madara, I'm sorry, I have better luck." Uchiha Madara lay on the ground and took a long breath, and said weakly, "If you win, you win. You say these euphemistic words in order to take care of other people's emotions. Do you really think that others will feel better after hearing this?" The tone of these words was very familiar to Sensho Bashirama, because he would always unconsciously say something that made people feel bad. For example, "I originally wanted to take care of Uchiha Madara's self-esteem, but changed the way of expression, but in the end it was self-defeating, which made the other party even more unhappy." Madara Uchiha has complained about this to him more than once. Sensho Zuma scratched his head with a wry smile, and laughed at himself. Maybe I've always been a person who would do bad things with good intentions. Uchiha Madara frowned and gave a tisk, raised his head and glanced at Senju Bashirama's hand, and said impatiently, I don't need your help, I'll get up by myself. Uchiha Madara struggled to get up, just stood up, exhausted, his legs and feet were weak, and he couldn't support it anymore, and fell backwards. Senju Zuma hurriedly supported Uchiha Madara, putting his arm on his shoulder. It's all like this, how can you not need my help? Although it was full of reluctance, Uchiha Madara had no choice but to move forward silently supported by Senju Bashirama. Uchiha Kiyoshi yelled at the two of them, come and eat something. The aroma of food and condiments mixed in the air, both Uchiha Madara and Senjujuma were surprised. Till they were exhausted, their mouths were parched and their stomachs were rumbling, smelling the aroma, their stomachs naturally made noises. Senju Bashima helped Uchiha Madara to sit on the chair, and sat down with difficulty, letting out a long sigh of relief. Uchiha Kiyoshi took a closer look. The faces of these two people were blue and purple, and they knew that the fight was very fierce just by looking at their injuries. The barbecue was almost done, and Sakumo Hatake brought up plates one after another. Mutton skewers, chicken wings, soury, steak, leeks. Steaming hot, seduce people's appetite. Sensho Zujian didn't have much strength at first, but when he saw the delicious food, he immediately regained his vitality and said happily, it smells delicious. It's the most enjoyable thing to eat after exhausting your strength. I'm going to start. Sensho Zujian sniffed his nose, just picked up the chopsticks, wanted to pick up the fat steak, but stopped suddenly. He smiled at Uchiha Kiyoshi. Thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Death. Oh, and this good brother. He then made a gesture of thanks to Hatake Sakumo. Mr. Death, what an interesting title. Uchiha Kiyoshi smiled, and replied, don't call me, Mr. Shinigami, just call me Ching. After all, this is not the pure land of the underworld, it's just a small restaurant. When Senjujuma is not serious, he is carefree and very casual. Even in his prime, he still feels like a big boy. Sensho Zujian nodded, and replied seriously, understood, Mr. Shinigami. Amount. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt like he was talking in vain. Afterwards, Hatake Sakumo also introduced himself to Senju Bashima. After listening to Hatake Sakumo's narration, Senju Bashima pondered deeply. Oh, you and Monkey's disciple are almost in the same generation. Chapter 20 Your granddaughter is more than 3 and still single. Chapter 20 Your granddaughter is more than 30 and still single. After calming down, Senju Zuma found that he had many things to ask. The sea has changed, what is the Konoha like now? Hi. Picking up a glass of beer, Senju Hashirama drank heartily. Pick up the sliced meat, pick up the skewers, let go and eat. Uchiha Madara's resilience is not as good as Senju Hashirama's, and his physical condition is from the period of the End Valley War, and the Hashirama cells have not been implanted yet. Leaning weakly on the back of the chair, he didn't even want to lift his hands. Senju Zuma observed Uchiha Madara's embarrassment, and kindly said, Madara, are you out of strength? How about I feed you? The heart is such a heart, but it doesn't sound like that. After Uchiha Madara listened to Senju Bashirama's words, his chest felt tight, and he was so angry that he glared at him. He struggled to sit up straight and started to eat in a muffled voice. Uchiha Kiyoshi and Hatake Sakumo tried their best not to laugh in front of Uchiha Madara. Unexpectedly, an embarrassing sentence had the effect of hitting the right target. Senshujujian drank one cup after another. Drinking beer is like drinking water. Although his face was red, he was in good spirits and looked radiant, without the slightest hint of drunkenness. It is the so-called drink more energy. Uchiha's sake capacity is also good. He wanted to try Senju Bashima's alcohol capacity, but was stopped by Hatake Sakumo on the grounds that minors are not allowed to drink alcohol. While eating, Senju Bashima asked, Ching, you said my granddaughter Tsunade is over 30 now, so is she married or has children? He learned that of the 4 people sitting together, all 3 were reborn after death, and only Uchiha Kiyoshi knew Konoha's current situation better. Uchiha Kiyoshi can't drink alcohol, he can only drink mung bean soup. He put down the bowl and said, "Actually, Tsunade is neither married nor has children, nor does he even have a boyfriend." Although this sounds scary, but after thinking about it, Konoha Sanin is all older and single. Tsunade is stuck in the past and can't let go, and Jiraiya is stuck in Tsunade and can't extricate himself. As for Orochimaru, he probably doesn't need a woman. As we all know, Uncle Snake only loves scientific research and Sasuke Uchiha. Hyansho Zujian was stunned for a while, and said loudly, "How can this be done? There is no sign of it at all. I am already in my 30s, and I will be 40 in a blink of an eye. By then, my face will be full of wrinkles. How can I marry?" Quote. Uchiha Kiyoshi explained, "The appearance is fine. Tsunade has been using a secret technique to maintain his appearance. He is now in his 30s and looks like a little girl." At the same time, he added in his heart, "except for the figure." He tried to think back, and it seemed that Tsunade in the blogger biography was already an old woman according to her age, but she still looked youthful and beautiful, with collagen all over her face. Sensho Zujian was very puzzled. When he heard that his precious granddaughter was still in her boudoir at such an advanced age, she immediately frowned, and the beer tasted bitter in her mouth. "Why is this? My granddaughter was so cute when she was young, and she shouldn't be ugly when she grows up. Could it be that her shortcomings scare away the boys, such as gambling and violence?" It seems that Sensho Zujian knows his granddaughter quite well. Kiyoshi Uchiha shook his head. "Although the shortcomings you mentioned do exist, they are not due to these small reasons. Not for these little reasons. That's the big reason." Sensho Zujian tilted his head slightly, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He suddenly slapped the table and said anxiously, "Could it be that Tsunade doesn't like men?" PFF'd. Hatake Sakumo, who was listening silently, spewed out a mouthful of beer. Fortunately, he turned his head quickly and sprayed it on the ground, otherwise he would have sprayed Hyansho Zujian all over his face. Hatake Sakumo complained in his heart, "The way of thinking of the first Hokage-sama is really very strange." Uchiha Madara was too lazy to speak, and chose to remain silent. Uchiha Kiyoshi looked puzzled. However, this does seem to be a reasonable reason. He shook his head again and said, "Where are you thinking? Although it's not Shaoyuan, it's not so big. In fact, Tsunade's first love was sacrificed on the battlefield, and she has been unable to get out of grief. Used to sum it up in one word, it's heart not." Quote. That's it. Hyansho Zujian suddenly realized that he had said something wrong just now, and smiled awkwardly, "I was just joking." Uchiha Madara is very familiar with this sentence, and it is common for Senjuzuma to say the wrong thing. A familiar picture appeared in his mind. If Uzumaki Mito was at the scene, he would have scratched Senju Bashima's ear for talking ill of his granddaughter. Uchiha Madara felt that he didn't miss these things, but they were too familiar, so he thought of them naturally. Hyansho Zujian drank and kept muttering, "What should I do? My granddaughter can't get married." Hatake Sakumo raised his head to see the moonlight, and he couldn't help fantasizing. Although Kakashi is still young, he will get married sooner or later. What kind of girl will he find? Hatake Sakumo suddenly felt that he should pay more attention to Konoha's matchmaking circle. Pushing a cup to change a drink is indispensable for drinking, and Senjuzuma was so excited to drink. Seeing that Uchiha Madara didn't say a word, he slapped him on the back suddenly. "Madara, let's touch one." Hiss. Senju Bashirama's strength was so great that he slapped Uchiha Madara so hard that his bones almost fell apart. Madara Uchiha covered his back and shook his head slightly, "I don't like drinking." Hyansho Zujian was slightly drunk and behaved a little out of control. He deliberately lowered his face, pointed at Uchiha Madara and said, "It's not that you don't like drinking, but you are afraid that you won't be able to drink me and hurt your self-esteem." Uchiha Madara glared at Senju Bashirama after listening. "Ching, give me a cup." The next morning, Wadao Restaurant has a new employee and is operating normally. As usual, Kakashi and Madokai came here for breakfast after half an hour of training at the training ground. You two handsome guys, what would you like to eat? When Kakashi entered the door, he saw that it wasn't the cold-faced uncle who was usually reticent and acted like the boss's ancestors, but a new face. He looks warm and friendly, like a kind uncle who has been living next door to him. Senju Bashima, like Uchiha Madara, put on down-to-earth civilian clothes, and changed his appearance with a transformation technique. He has an amiable temperament. Even if he doesn't deal with anything and walks on the street, few people will associate him with the head Hokage on Hokage Rock. His complexion is a little bronze, and he is in good spirits. He has no airs and makes a good first impression. Kakashi said, a bowl of beef noodles. Madokai on the side asked, Uncle, is there a fitness meal here in the morning? Fitness meals, there should be some, I'll go to the back kitchen and ask. Sensho Zujian walked towards the back kitchen. Kakashi asked curiously, what is the fitness meal? I just heard from you today. Madokai replied seriously, for ordinary people, things like mushrooms, carrots, baby vegetables, and broccoli are served with chicken breasts, less salt, less oil, and less sugar, which are very beneficial for building muscle and reducing fat. The ninja version, the package, will add more kinds of things to meet our energy consumption. Thank you all for your support and valuable upvotes. Because I am a student and writing part-time. Time is limited, so please forgive me if I haven't responded to your comments. But almost all the comments, including this chapter, I read carefully, but the author is too shy, so I don't know how to reply. Special thanks to the readers who urged me to update during the suspension period. If you don't urge me to update, I may have really forgotten to write it. It can be said that it gave me a lot of motivation. In addition, this new book title was changed for me by the editor, so it does not match the cover, and I will change it later. Chapter 21, Sakumo Hatake's Request. Metke said, it's just launched, it's very suitable for my appetite, and it feels so wonderful to even eat while training. Kakashi showed a puzzled expression. Just thinking about these things, he already lost his appetite. But it is indeed in line with Kai's habits. Matt K is a man who will stand on his head on the way home. He doesn't need to lose fat at all, he just wants to try this kind of all-weather investment once in a while. Kakashi, why don't you try it too, a fitness meal with a youthful taste? Madokai said eagerly. Ah, forget it. Kakashi waved his hand. The taste of youth is not something everyone can taste. If you really want to eat like this, eat a few more meals a day. Senju Bashima brought up the beef noodles and placed them in front of Kakashi. Kakashi broke apart the chopsticks, puffed hot air on his face mask, and pursed his lips. It seems that every time I come here to eat, there will be a sense of anticipation. Speaking of which, it was his first time to eat here, just to cheer for his acquaintances. Randomly ordered 2 home-cooked dishes and didn't care. But then, Kakashi gradually became dependent on it. It is different from the general customer's preference for novel dishes here. Kakashi cares about taste. Everyone's taste is different, the chef's taste is the chef's taste, and the customer's taste is the customer's taste. Even if the chef will make adjustments to accommodate the guests, it may not be done in one step. And Kakashi was 100% satisfied with the first bite of food he ate at Wadao restaurant. Whether it is the amount of oil and salt, the thickness of the slices, or the degree of tenderness, it is just right. In other words, Kakashi cooked for himself, but he didn't make it so comfortable to eat. The last time he felt this feeling was 5 years ago, before his father died. After all, only those who accompany each other day and night will make adjustments based on feedback until they are 100% satisfied. Moreover, in addition to time, there must be intention. A restaurant that is open to all Konohas will never be adapted to the taste of a specific person, and it was his first visit at the time. It's a coincidence. Kakashi told himself so. It's just that there's more than one weird place. Once, Kakashi and Madokai ordered separately, and each ate his own food. Then when he went to eat the dish of Madokai, it tasted like an ordinary restaurant, completely different from the taste of the dish he ordered. It seems that every time he comes here, it is a private order, designed for him by a special person. Kakashi thought of the scene where he fought Kiyoshi Uchiha before, and was suddenly full of doubts. This happened to be his restaurant. However, it is clear that the chef of the restaurant is not Kiyoshi Uchiha. According to his observation, Kiyoshi Uchiha seldom goes to the back kitchen, except when he is too busy. He basically collects money and keeps accounts at the front desk. Follow the clues to find out the truth and find out the truth, which is one of the thinking that a ninja should have. Kakashi sometimes wondered if he should lift the curtain of the back kitchen to see who was cooking inside. But after thinking about it, if it is someone I don't know, it doesn't seem to mean anything if I know it, and the word coincidence can be used to sum it up. Because the person he knew who could make such a dish is long gone. It doesn't make sense to do so, but it will make yourself think too much. Kakashi shook his head slightly while eating. When learning illusion, he often heard a concept, that is, psychological effect. The essence of illusion is to attack the enemy's five senses and make them fall into hallucinations. One of the important techniques is to strengthen the enemy's psychological hints, that is, to show some detailed things according to people's thinking habits and produce psychological effects. Finally, let the enemy tell himself, this is real, not an illusion. A typical psychological suggestion is, because I want something to happen, so I imply that it must exist, and then use some irrelevant content as evidence of the existence of this thing. Kakashi felt that the reason why he thought so much was because of psychological effects. Concentrate on eating noodles. After breakfast and payment, Kakashi and Madokai went out together. After breakfast, before the Chinese meal arrived, there were no customers, and it was also a time for Kiyoshi Uchiha and his employees to rest. Kiyoshi Uchiha sat at the front desk and wrote at his desk, and Sakumo Hatake came out from the back kitchen and came to him. Hatake Sakumo saw that Uchiha Kiyoshi was writing on the paper, densely packed, line after line. "Shing, what are you doing?" Uchiha Kiyoshi replied, "I am creating." Then he picked up the paper and showed Hatake Sakumo the title written on the top. One Piece. Hatake Sakumo glanced at the introduction written by Uchiha Kiyoshi below. The man, One Piece, Gall D. Roger, who has wealth, fame, power, everything in this world, said a word before being executed. It seems to be a very wonderful story about the sea. Hatake Sakumo didn't know why his young boss had so many wild ideas in his head. I have never been a chef before, but I have invented many unheard of dishes. Now I'm starting to enter the field of writers. The fool who does not belong to this era is less and less like a joke. Kiyoshi Uchiha rubbed his sore hands, folded the paper and put it away. Because Intimate Paradise has not been released yet, and the novels in the bookstore are not good looking, so he decided to write it himself and earn a manuscript fee by the way. Originally, he wanted to be Osamu Tezuka of Konoha, leading the manga trend in the whole ninja world. But in the end, he was forced to transform because he couldn't understand the hair of female characters. Uchiha Kiyoshi asked curiously, "Uncle, what can I do for you?" Hatake Sakumo sat beside Uchiha Kiyoshi and said, "I want to ask you a favor." Afterwards, Hatake Sakumo took out a book and handed it to Uchiha Kiyoshi. There is no lettering on the cover, and the quality of the paper is not new, as if it was just printed. Uchiha Kiyoshi took it and turned to the first page. A method of stabilizing Thunder Dungeon based on network node techniques. Kiyoshi Uchiha read while watching. It is full of handwritten content, with large paragraphs describing experience in ninjutsu, illusion, physical arts and even actual combat, covering a wide range. With his own semi-professional level, Kiyoshi Uchiha can tell even after reading that the content inside is quite refined and full of essence. Turning to the middle part, there is the White Fang sword art that Uchiha Kiyoshi and Hatake Sakumo mentioned before. Hatake Sakumo didn't call it that, but just wrote, "Some practical sword skills experience," in the title line. There seems to be nothing wrong with it. There is no need for Uchiha Kiyoshi to finish reading, he already knows the purpose of Hatake Sakumo. He took the book and said, "Uncle, do you want me to give this to Kakashi?" Hatake Sakumo nodded, with tenderness in his eyes. Yes, I watched the match between the two seniors yesterday, and I had a lot of insights, so I recorded it. In the past month, I have been summarizing my experience and insights over the years, hoping to bring some help to Kakashi. But how to pass it to Kakashi's hands requires your help. Chapter 22: The Almighty Illusion. Uchiha Kiyoshi's first reaction was that Hatake Sakumo was a little anxious. Because he had already mentioned to Hatake Sakumo that he did not intend to keep these souls from the pure land of the underworld incognito. The time has come to reveal your identity. At that time, many people in Konoha should have their jaws dropped. I complained to Uchiha Madara about his bad service attitude. As the first Hokage serving me. But having said that, although he was sure that Kakashi would live to Boruto, Hatake Sakumo didn't know. From a father's point of view, Hatake Sakumo is very afraid that his son will encounter accidents on the dangerous battlefield. Therefore, before that time, Hatake Sakumo eagerly wanted to do something. Then this commission must be agreed. Kiyoshi Uchiha rubbed his chin and thought about it seriously. Is there any way to make this book come to Kakashi naturally? When he was fishing, throw it directly at his head while he was not paying attention. Pretend to be a book dealer and tell him, look at your skeleton, it's suitable for a copy of Self-Cultivation of an Elite Jonin. Or just put it in Kakashi's arms, don't ask why, it's the old customer benefits. Countless thoughts passed through Uchiha Kiyoshi's mind, and he felt that none of them were reliable. Uchiha Kiyoshi thought hard for a while, and finally thought of a more practical one. Uncle, how to send it to Kakashi is a problem. How about this? Is there a way to make Kakashi feel that your book has been kept in a hidden corner of the house, but he didn't, it's just a discovery, and then we put the book in that position and let him find it? Quote. After finishing speaking, Uchiha Kiyoshi went to close the door gently, and went to the back of the restaurant with Hatake Sakumo to prevent customers who came in suddenly from overhearing. Hatake Sakumo nodded, agreeing with his thoughts. This is a method, and there is a way to solve it. I think illusion can be done. The general scenario is to make Kakashi feel that he is dreaming, and he heard the sleep talk, thinking that he recalled the forgotten content. Uchiha Kiyoshi thought about it and it was indeed feasible. Oh yes, you can also use illusion. Suddenly, Uchiha Kiyoshi suddenly remembered that he was a ninja. But it's so troublesome, I really want to hand it to Kakashi face to face. No way. This is the situation now. At this time, Hatake Sakumo looked embarrassed and said, however, if I just use your body to operate, I'm afraid I won't be able to complete such a delicate illusion. After all, it is still difficult for Kakashi to not discover it. What Hatake Sakumo means is that my illusion is not that strong, and with your body, the effect will be greatly reduced. Yeah, that's another question. After thinking for a while, Kiyoshi Uchiha suddenly turned around and looked at the pretty guy behind him who was resting with his eyes closed. In terms of illusion, there is a reliable big brother here. I don't know if he has any method. Uchiha Kiyoshi walked over, patted Uchiha Madara, and told him the discussion with Hatake Sakumo just now. Uchiha Madara felt that such a trivial matter was not worth disturbing his rest. After listening to it, he closed his eyes again and said absently, you restore my body to normal, and I will inject my pupil power into you. Uchiha Madara finished speaking succinctly, without explaining too much. Just hearing this sentence, Uchiha Kiyoshi has many doubts in his heart. One is that the pupil power of Sharingan can be transmitted for a short time. The second is that I have not opened Sharingan, can I still carry the pupil power of Sharingan? But since Uchiha Madara thinks it can be done, then he doesn't have to worry about it. Uchiha Kiyoshi operated through consciousness, and Uchiha Madara then felt the vigorous pupil power of his eternal kaleidoscope restored. He stretched out his hand and tapped Uchiha Kiyoshi's eyebrows lightly. Okay, it's finished. Maybe the injected pupil power is a little too much, but it's not a big deal, you can figure it out yourself. Uchiha Madara put down his hand. Uchiha Kiyoshi felt a wonderful tingling sensation in his eyes and the nerves and chakra veins connected to the eyes inside. A powerful force rushed into his eyes, quickly changing from chaotic to controllable. His vision blurred briefly, then became clear again. Kiyoshi Uchiha immediately walked to the mirror. In the mirror, his pupils were in the same eternal kaleidoscope shape as Madara Uchiha. The bright red background is like blood dripping into the pupils. Uchiha Kiyoshi somewhat understood what Uchiha Madara said just now. He just wanted to use a slightly difficult illusion, but Uchiha Madara directly gave him the degree to which he could use Susanoo. This does not seem to be a little too much. Uchiha Kiyoshi blinked and hid the pupil power. The kaleidoscope pattern disappeared and returned to the appearance of ordinary eyes. Uchiha Kiyoshi walked back and saw Uchiha Madara continued to rest with his eyes closed, as if he didn't care about it at all. This provided Uchiha Kiyoshi with an idea. Although Uchiha Madara can't leave Hinata restaurant, Uchiha Madara can inject pupil power into him. It is also equivalent to bringing the power of Uchiha Madara to the outside world. This is not just the previous form of playing on behalf of a trumpet. It's like Uchiha Madara's off-site login. Uchiha Kiyoshi came to Hatake Sakumo and said, "The problem is solved." On holidays without missions, Kakashi usually chooses to spend his free time fishing by the river. Most of the time, you can empty your mind, whether you are staring at the white clouds in the sky or reading idle books. The only momentary tension is when the fish bites the hook. Kakashi enjoyed this rhythm very much. The highest state of a fisherman is that he doesn't care whether he can catch fish or not. Kakashi. While looking at the water, Kakashi felt a tap on his shoulder, turned his head, and saw a pair of Sharingan patterns that he had never seen before. In an instant, sleepiness surged up irresistibly. He closed his eyes, and lay down on the grass behind him. In a daze, a picture appeared in his mind. The innermost room that is not often visited by the family is usually unoccupied, and it is a guest room for friends who stay overnight. A long time ago, it was also the place where Hatake Sakumo sorted out materials at home. The fuzzy picture gradually became clear, and Kakashi noticed that there was a piece of ground in the upper left corner of the door that seemed not very coordinated, and the gaps did not match. According to past reconnaissance experience, this should be a secret compartment, a place to hide things, and I have never noticed it before. Kakashi woke up slowly, scratching his head, only remembering that he suddenly felt sleepy, and then fell asleep. The time was not very long. He just lay down on the grass for a while, watching the position of the fishing rod, and no fish took the bait during this time. He stood up, packed his fishing gear, and the curiosity in his heart drove him to go home immediately. Chapter 23. What a strange dream. Kakashi muttered, walking home with a long fishing rod on his shoulders. In the fish basket, a grass carp is flopping. It is today's dinner. Although the content of the dream gives a specific location, it is a dream after all, and it does not necessarily represent reality. Even if there is, it is probably some personal hobbies collected by Dad. Kakashi thought to himself. While walking, the fishing rod flicked behind his back. Kakashi. Kakashi turned his head in the direction of the voice. A friendly figure appeared beside him. He has golden hair, blue pupils the same color as the sea, and always has a gentle and confident smile on his face. His teacher, Namikaze Minato. Although it was very kind, it still surprised him. Namikaze Minato teleported to Kakashi's side using the Haraijinjutsu. Putting this kind of plot at night is about equal to the effect of being haunted. "Oh, teacher, it's you." Kakashi held his heart and complained. "Can you stop showing up suddenly like this all the time? If I get a heart attack from being frightened, I must ask you for reimbursement." Namikaze Minato laughed and said, "I'm sorry Kakashi, because I've been too busy recently, so I took this way of rushing for time. Think of it as training your psychological quality and responsiveness." Namikaze Minato put his hands on his head in embarrassment, and said, "Actually, Kushina often complains about this to me, saying that the cockroaches at home are not as elusive as I am." Kakashi also understands that Namikaze Minato is busy with affairs, not only performing extraordinary feats on the battlefield, but also gradually taking on the management work inside Konoha. That's why it's so hot. Kakashi asked curiously, "Teacher, what do you want from me?" Namikaze Minato's expression turned serious. "It's the same thing I mentioned to you before, because according to the current development of the battlefield situation, Konoha will start a decisive battle with Yunyin in a short period of time. It is a decisive battle and a scuffle. I have analyzed it. The area where you will be active at that time is likely to meet the Abduo or other strong union." Namikaze Minato mentioned his flying thunder god Kunai, and his attitude was more serious. "I need to take into account the situation of the entire battlefield. Even if I use the flying thunder god technique, I won't be able to reach you in time when you encounter danger. Therefore, the teacher wants to transfer you to a back position." Kakashi replied without hesitation, "Teacher, I understand your thoughts, but I am also a ninja, and I have no reason to back down. Although I am still young, unarmed civilians need more protection." Namikaze Minato folded his hips and sighed helplessly, feeling that Kakashi still didn't understand what he meant. "Forget it, let's not talk about this for now, let's talk about finding a partner for you in this mission. As usual, I will ask your opinion first. If you don't think of a suitable one, let the superiors arrange." The reason why such steps are needed is because Kakashi's former teammates, Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin, have already sacrificed. Kakashi searched his head, and Kiyoshi Uchiha's name popped out of his head. The age is similar, the relationship is relatively familiar, and the strength. According to the impression half a year ago, Kakashi would feel that Uchiha Kiyoshi's strength is the usual Chunin level. But after the last fight, Kakashi couldn't figure it out. Although he won, the win was inexplicable. If it wasn't for too long, and it was about to end immediately, he couldn't guarantee that he would win. After all, he really didn't catch the opponent's flaw. But just the level shown is enough. It just so happens that Kiyoshi Uchiha has no partner either. Like Mat Kai, who is led by other Jonin and has his own teammates, it is not convenient for Minato Namikaze to be transferred. Kakashi said to Namikaze Minato, "I've made up my mind, let's find Uchiha Kiyoshi. Teacher, do you know him?" Kiyoshi Uchiha. Namikaze Minato's first impression was not a ninja, but the young owner of the restaurant Kushina loved most. Since this is the impression, it means that Uchiha Kiyoshi's previous ninja career was not impressive. Namikaze Minato asked curiously, "Why him?" Kakashi explained, "I had a competition with him before, and the result was a tie." In name it was a win, but Kakashi felt it was a tie. Namikaze Minato's eyes lit up, and he became even more curious. "A tie with you? That's really good. Then, I'll find time to meet him." Kakashi's level, Namikaze Minato understands. If his peers can match him, it must be at least a bit of talent. After chatting with Kakashi for a while, Minakame realized that there was something else waiting for him to do, turned around, and gestured goodbye to Kakashi. Namikaze Minato paused, hesitated to speak, but left without using the Flying Thunder God technique. "Kakashi, I don't want to protect you too much and prevent you from contributing to Konoha. But, you are the only one of my 3 students, and I still want you to be Naruto's teacher." Kakashi froze in place, the fishing rod on his shoulder touched the ground unknowingly. Namikaze Minato scratched his head habitually, and laughed. It seems that the atmosphere suddenly became a little heavy. "Anyway, protect yourself on the battlefield, Kakashi." After speaking, Namikaze Minato used the Flying Thunder God art, and his figure flashed and disappeared in place. Kakashi stayed for a few seconds, then walked back home in silence. According to the picture in the dream, he walked into the innermost room. Looking in the direction of the corner, I found that it matched my memory. A piece of the floor in the upper left corner does look slightly out of place. When you get closer and observe carefully, compared with the floor tiles next to it, there is an obvious bulge in the gap. Kakashi pulled out kunai from the package, the sharp blade stuck in the gap, and he grabbed the handle and pulled it up. With a slight force and a click, the floor tile was picked up, and one looked into the crack, and there was an independent space inside. Kakashi increased his strength and pushed the floor tiles away completely. Like opening a dusty box, Kakashi saw the contents hidden inside. A book with a brown cover lies in a dark compartment. Strangely enough, there wasn't much dust on it. Kakashi picked it up. Judging from the paper, the time is not too long. Turning to the first page, it was indeed the handwriting of his father, Sakumo Hatake. It is full of experience related to combat. The font is Jojung, which is the same as Hatake Sakumo's rigorous attitude. The tone of the narration is also correct, like an old pedant. From Kakashi's point of view, the content inside is also the essence of the essence. He skimmed through it quickly. If he wanted to study it carefully, it would probably take a lot of work. Kakashi rubbed the paper lightly with his fingers, thinking carefully. There is no doubt about the content. It must have been written by Sakumo Hatake, and only he knows some details. For example, when finishing each sentence, an ink dot will be tapped next to it. But still the problem. The touch of this paper is really not like it was many years ago. Judging from the ink stains, it looks like it was written on a newly bought notebook. Kakashi unconsciously rubbed the pages of the book as he pondered. Okay. Kakashi turned to the last page, which was blank, and when he rubbed it, he felt that this page seemed a little thicker than the other pages. Chapter 24 Married Man. If the thickness is thicker, it means there is still content inside. The hidden information in the folder is a very simple means of concealment. Kakashi felt more and more that he was able to find this thing because someone deliberately guided him. The paper is new, there is no dust on the book, strange dreams. In short, let's take a look at what is written in this folder. Kakashi twirled the paper with one hand, then used kunai to cut a gap in the corner, took a breath, and opened it gently. After unfolding, there is only one line of words inside, one sentence. Kakashi, fortunately, I can continue to accompany you. Minato, when you come back, go to Wadao restaurant and bring something delicious. I want to eat egg tarts, Naruto wants to eat French fries, and a cup of milk tea tilde. Namikaze Minato repeatedly thought about what Kushina told her before she went out, fearing that she would be unhappy with her big belly if she bought the wrong one. It's obvious that I want to eat French fries, and I also said that Naruto likes to eat them. Although Namikaze Minato was muttering, he had a smile on his face, and his happiness was about to overflow. But he was very curious, why Ju Zinai, who was usually pregnant and wandered around, was too lazy to go out at this time. When he came to the entrance of Wadao restaurant, he understood. It turned out to be queuing. Namikaze Minato looked at the terrifying long dragon, feeling a little dizzy. This was a rare problem that even the Flying Thunder God technique couldn't solve. He could only sigh silently, came to the end of the line, and began to wait for a long time. Really, the shop is obviously opened by a member of the clan, and I, the head of the clan, actually want to queue up. Namikaze Minato heard a familiar voice from behind, turned his head and saw that it was Uchiha Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha family. He himself has less contact with Uchiha Fugaku, but because Uzumaki Kushina and Uchiha Makoto, Uchiha Fugaku's wife, Itachi's mother is a best friend, so Kushina is often mentioned. Is there any magic added to the food in this restaurant? It can make Makoto so fascinated. Even a child as obedient as Itachi is clamoring for it every day. Uchiha Fugaku kept a straight face, complaining to himself. Namikaze Minato felt a little funny when he heard it. He learned in Kushina that Uchiha Fugaku is actually a typical, knife-mouthed tofu-hearted person. Although he chattered so much, he still came to help his wife and children to line up honestly. Brother Fugaku. Minami Namikaze greeted Uchiha Fugaku eagerly. When Uchiha Fugaku heard someone calling him, he raised his brows and looked intently, a golden hair appeared in his vision. It turned out to be Minakame Minato, the husband of his wife's best friend. It's you, Minato. Namikaze Minato smiled and said, Brother Fuyu, you also come to line up. Uchiha Fugaku frowned, showing a helpless look. There are many affairs in the family, but Makoto and Itachi have talked about it many times, and I have to find time to come here. I'm busy too, but Kushina wants to eat. At this time, The two married men with the same illness looked at each other and laughed in unison. Kiyoshi Uchiha, who was busy in full swing, glanced casually when he heard the laughter coming from outside. It turned out to be Naruto's father and Sasuke's father. What a wonderful combination. While busy with the work in hand, Kiyoshi Uchiha used his consciousness to chat with Senjujuma next to him. Hashirama, that yellow-haired young man in the team, is currently the most popular person to take over Hokage. Sensho Zujian looked up and asked curiously, "What's his name?" "Namikaze Minato." "Nafu." Senju Zuma tried to think back. It seems that the main family that formed Konoha did not have the surname of Nami. In this way, in a simple summary, it is an unknown civilian child who has touched the opportunity to become Hokage through his own talent and hard work. This looks in his 20s, which is way too young. Sensho Zujian said, "Can you introduce it more specifically?" Uchiha Kiyoshi replied through consciousness. "He is a student of Jiraiya, that is, the disciple of your brother's disciple's disciple. The ninjutsu he is best at is also the flying Raijin jutsu in Togama." Ha ha. Kianshuju suddenly burst out laughing twice, frightened the customer in front of him spilled the cone on his hand. Uchiha Madara's eardrums were strongly stimulated, and he wanted to paste the egg tart he made directly on the face of the fool next to him. Uchiha Ching complained, "Why are you laughing so loudly?" Sensho Bashirama explained, "I just think he is very similar to Toboma. Not only can he fly the Thunder God technique, but he is also probably at the limit level that a ninja who has no blood succession limit can achieve. And it is very interesting that if you become a Hokage, then the relationship between the past Hokages can be strung together into a thread. As expected of you, you have thought of all this," Uchiha Kiyoshi said jokingly. He also wanted to tell Sensho Hashirama that if it develops normally, in fact, there will be no outsiders in all Hokage, at least the connection between the master and the apprentice. Thinking of this, Uchiha Kiyoshi seems to understand Uchiha Madara's resentment towards Senjujuma. Uchiha Madara has always felt that he or the Uchiha family is worthy of a Hokage. After almost 10 minutes, Minato Namikaze finally came to the window, and he could open his mouth to order. When these times were changed to the battlefield, he had already wiped out a small team of the enemy. But it's worth it to make Kushina happy. Namikaze Minato said to Uchiha Kiyoshi, 8 egg tarts, 2 large portions of French fries, and 2 cups of taro milk tea. After buying these, he will go to Yield Ramen to pack. Uchiha Kiyoshi quickly prepared these things for Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato took the heavy plastic bag and said, "Ching, can you come over for a moment? I have something I want to talk to you about." Uchiha Kiyoshi is very curious, what can Namikaze Minato talk to him about? He talked to the other 3 employees, and then went to a remote corner with Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato said, "It seems that you haven't taken the initiative to perform tasks for a long time." Uchiha nodded and said, "It's almost right. There are a lot of things to take care of in the store, and it has been very busy." In recent days, he would only walk out of Konoha's gate when he was assigned a task in the village, and he never took the initiative to accept the task. Namikaze Minato was even more puzzled. Such a ninja should not train very often, nor would he have much actual combat experience. It's like this, because of the sacrifice of personnel, Kakashi lacks a partner in the upcoming next war. I consulted his opinion, and then he recommended you to me. It turned out that it was this matter. Uchiha Halal did not expect it, and thought that Namikaze Minato came to ask him to apply for a membership card. Many times, he would treat himself as an ordinary boss, not Konoha's ninja. Apart from a few slightly better employees down there, nothing special. Since Namikaze Minato said this, should I agree? Uchiha Kiyoshi thought for 2 seconds and felt that he could agree. Chapter 25 Spokesperson. With Uchiha Madara and Senjujuma's remote command, ensuring safety on the battlefield is not a problem. Kiyoshi Uchiha summoned these strong men through the Gusido system, not just to find useful labor for the small restaurant. And from an obedient point of view, these people are not easy to use. The key lies in how to use their power to change the direction of the original story, and, to form their own forces. Slowly, as a ninja, I want to enter the public's sight. Uchiha Kiyoshi said to Namikaze Minato, Minister Minato, it is my honor to be valued, and I am naturally obliged to do so. Namikaze Minato nodded. Since it was Kakashi's choice, he didn't have to doubt it. It was just curiosity that made him want to test the qualifications of this junior. Namikaze Minato said, Shing, are you free now? I want to see your skills. Of course I can, but Minato-sensei, why don't you go back first? Uchiha Kiyoshi pointed to the plastic bag on Namikaze Minato's hand. If you eat something for too long, it will affect the taste. Namikaze Minato let out an, oh, before remembering that he still had the snack that Kushina ordered in his hand. Okay then, you're going to be open too, so don't bother me. I'll visit again at another suitable time. Namikaze Minato waved his hand, ready to use the Flying Thunder God technique. Wait a minute, Minato-sensei, I also want to discuss something with you. Uchiha Kiyoshi also had something he wanted to talk about with Namikaze Minato, so he just took this opportunity to say it. Namikaze Minato blinked suspiciously, put his hands down, and said, Please say. Then I'll just say it. Hearing this, Namikaze Minato felt a sense of tension in his heart. What made Uchiha Kiyoshi, who had never dealt with him before, so solemn? Kiyoshi Uchiha took a breath, increased his confidence, and said, I would like to ask you to be the spokesperson for our milk tea. Huh. Namikaze Minato was stunned when he heard this word. He didn't have much contact with the word, spokesperson, and tried to connect with things related to this word in his head. Probably to ask him to help with publicity. Just like a writer will invite other well-known writers to write a preface for his work, which is a means of increasing sales through the popularity of others. If the work sells well, the popularity of the preface writer will be further enhanced, achieving a win-win effect of mutual promotion. For a while, Minato Namikaze didn't know whether this was a good proposal or a bad one. Can you talk about your specific thoughts? Kiyoshi Uchiha casually took an empty plastic cup containing milk tea, pointed to the bare surface and said, Although the new products launched in our store are almost all welcomed by the residents of Konoha, there are still many people who are unwilling to spend money to try unfamiliar foods. They feel that the color of the drink in the cup is weird, and it is nothing at first glance. Clean good stuff. So, I would like to ask you to endorse our food, as an analogy. Uchiha Kiyoshi turned the plastic cup in his hand around. Put a layer of paper packaging on the outside of the cup, borrow your portrait, and draw a suitable poster. For example, you appear on the packaging as a friendly and funny cartoon image, holding a cup of milk tea, expressing appear to be enjoying the drink. Of course, this is just a part of being a spokesperson, just for example. First of all, I still need to ask for your opinion. Uchiha Kiyoshi said a lot, and Namikaze Minato understood what he meant. It is also found that this young man does have a lot of thoughts in his head, and it seems that the thinking of ordinary residents is not on the same line. In fact, Kiyoshi Uchiha also wanted to learn from plagiarize the creative idea of Ulame milk tea advertisement. Let Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina, the well-known couple of Konoha, appear on the manga on the outer packaging at the same time, and then add a bubbled dialogue box. What am I to you? You are my milk tea. Huh. So I'm just a cup of milk tea. In this way, I can hold you in the palm of my hand. Ask yourself, Kiyoshi Uchiha finds it a bit awkward, but it does impress customers. Residents of Konoha who have not experienced the baptism of various magical advertisements should still find this kind of publicity very novel. But this kind of shocking thing, or not to talk about Namikaze Minato. Minato Namikaze thinks this kind of publicity method is very interesting. He has never encountered it before, so it is okay to try something new. But what about other aspects? Namikaze Minato was lost in thought, tapping his pants unconsciously with his fingers. He remembered that the third Hokage once told him that in Konoha, when meeting anyone or anything, one should first think about the relationship between the family. The third Hokage once said to him, "You are a commoner. Although this prevents you from getting the support of some families at the beginning, it is also your advantage. The commoner status is like a blank sheet of paper, and you can get the support of any family. Namikaze Minato is a bit disgusted with these secret things, but in order to become Hokage, these complicated relationship networks have to be considered. Now Wadao restaurant already has a lot of influence in Konoha. Although small in scale, it has a great reputation and a good reputation. Word of mouth is the most reliable name. And many people know that the owner of Wadao restaurant is a young man from the Uchiha family. His endorsement of Wadao restaurant is equivalent to expressing his favor for the Uchiha family. Most of the Konoha executives don't like the Uchiha family, and naturally they don't like his relationship with the Uchiha family. Namikaze Minato has always understood the embarrassing situation of the Uchiha family in Konoha, and the long-standing hidden dangers that accompany it. If you become Hokage, this is one of the things that must be resolved. Speaking of which, when the war is over, Hokage will be elected soon, and the attitude of the top management is a very important factor. Namikaze Minato's thoughts are intertwined, processing a large amount of information from many aspects at high speed in his mind. If he gets stuck in a certain node and cannot get out, he will be upset. Namikaze Minato shook his head, feeling that he was thinking a little too much. It was just a small restaurant, and it couldn't affect the overall situation. If high-level dissatisfaction is caused, it's a big deal. Just tell them that I didn't expect this level, and deal with it. Uchiha Kiyoshi noticed Namikaze Minato's hesitation, and he could roughly guess something. After all, Namikaze Minato is not an ordinary ninja, but the fourth generation of Hokage in the future. Originally, he asked Namikaze Minato to endorse him, but he just liked his sunny and handsome image, and didn't think too much about it. As a married man, Namikaze Minato can still maintain a high degree of discussion in the Konoha women's circle, which is very telling. Uchiha Kiyoshi explained, "Minister Minato, I'm just telling you an idea. I don't mean to ask you to make a choice right away. You should think about it." Namikaze Minato smiled knowingly, which relieved his only worry. When he becomes Hokage, he will have more rights to act. Immediately, I realized my childhood dream and stood on the platform of the building with a Hokage hat to face the residents of Konoha. He has this confidence.